Chapter 896. Zhuosisi looked at Qinchuan's strenuous appearance and couldn't help but reveal a trace of doubt on her face. She muttered in a low voice, "What is Qinchuan doing? There doesn't seem to be anything special about this talisman array." In Zhuosisi's eyes, the talisman array that Qinchuan was currently inscribing was completely unsurprising. It was just an ordinary talisman array that no one would be interested in. What was the point of inscribing such a featureless talisman array in such a remote corner? Just as Zhuosisi was puzzled, Sophie's figure suddenly appeared beside her and whispered, "Qinchuan is trying to do something big." Zhuosisi was slightly stunned when she heard this. She asked in confusion, "What big thing is this?" Sophie took a deep look at Qinchuan and said to Zhuosisi, "Qinchuan is currently inscribing an experimental talisman array developed by Master Tianyin. If he succeeds, it means that Qinchuan already has the ability to inscribe a 5th-level talisman array. He wants to become a 5th-level talisman array master during the opening ceremony and once again cause a stir in the entire Sane galaxy." Zhuosisi couldn't help but reveal a trace of shock when she heard Sophie's explanation. She abruptly turned her head and looked at the talisman array that Qinchuan had almost completed. She said in disbelief, "Is he really confident? Although I haven't had much contact with Qinchuan, I've always known that he's someone who never does anything that he's not confident in." Sophie looked at Qinchuan and couldn't help but think of the crushing battle that took place in front of the interstellar portal. When Qinchuan said that he wanted to fight alone, she thought that Qinchuan was crazy. However, reality proved that he wasn't crazy and indeed had the ability to do so. Now that Qinchuan wanted to become a 5th-level talisman array master in public, others might think that Qinchuan was indulging in fantasy, but she felt that Qinchuan had the ability to do so. "I know he's very powerful, but this is really..." Zhuosisi took a deep breath. "It's still too shocking." Even though Zhuosisi had been anticipating that Qinchuan would be able to break through to become a Grade 5 talisman formation master since a very long time ago, she'd only entertained a fantasy at that time, and she didn't really feel that Qinchuan had the ability to break through to become a Grade 5 talisman formation master in such a short period of time. Now that Qinchuan had suddenly broken through on the spot, it was impossible for her to not be suspicious. Actually, I was extremely surprised when I saw through Qinchuan's thoughts earlier. The Talisman Formation Master Exchange has been held for the 96th time, yet there has never been a Talisman Formation Master that was able to break through to become a Level 5 Talisman Formation Master during the opening ceremony. If Qinchuan is really able to accomplish this, then he'll become the first person in history. Sophie couldn't help but sigh. As of now, Qinchuan already possessed strength that wasn't inferior to a peak deity transformation stage cultivator. If he were to become a Grade 5 Talisman Formation Master as well, then Qinchuan's status would be completely different from before, and he would truly become the star of Sane. Just as Sophie and Zhuosisi were speaking, Qinchuan's hand, which was inscribing the talisman array, trembled imperceptibly. However, it was this simple and minute tremble that caused a problem to appear in the talisman array diagram in front of Qinchuan, causing it to collapse with a loud bang. Seeing this scene, the anticipation that had risen up in Zhuosisi's heart with great difficulty fell back down again. A subtle look flashed through her eyes, and she said in a low voice, "He failed. The opening ceremony will last for 3 days, and this is only the beginning. You have to have confidence in him." Sophie gave Zhuosisi a meaningful look and said, "After all, he represents your Heath City's Talisman Formation Master Association and is also your husband in name." Hearing Sophie's words, Zhuosisi's expression changed slightly, but she didn't say anything else. On the stage, Qinchuan had already begun his second attempt. After the failure of his first attempt, Qinchuan wasn't disappointed. Instead, he was full of confidence. "Sure enough, after unlocking the seal of the runic sword on my brain, my mental strength has been greatly enhanced. Now it's at least at the peak of the liquid stage, or even at the half-step core formation stage. It's enough to support me in scribing a grade 5 talisman formation array. If I hadn't made a mistake in my excitement just now, the experimental talisman array wouldn't have collapsed. After self-recognition and reflection, Qin took a deep breath and focused all his energy on inscribing the experimental talisman array. This time, he wanted to finish it in one fell swoop and cross the first hurdle that was blocking his path to a breakthrough. With the status of the Tushan family in Tron Nebula, as soon as Tushan Ling and Tushan Yu appeared, the organizer immediately arranged the best box for them and provided the best service. It could be said that they were even more attentive than when they served Odyssey the Great. Tushan Yu sat on a comfortable sofa and looked at the huge crystal screen in front of him. He asked Tushan Ling, "Which stage is Qin at?" Hearing this, Tushan Ling had a strange look on his face, and he answered, "He's at booth D89. Seeing the change of expression on Tushan Ling's face, Tushan Yu asked, "What's wrong with this stage?" Tushan Ling smiled and replied, "Stage D89 is the trashiest stage of all. Except for a band playing music, there is no auditorium. Even the auditorium closest to stage D89 is 100 meters away." Tushan Ling was really surprised when he learned the number of Qinchuan's stage. He didn't expect that Qinchuan would be so unlucky to draw such a trashiest stage. But this wasn't what surprised him the most. What surprised him the most was that Qinchuan didn't want to change his stage at all. He accepted it just like that. After hearing Tushan Ling's explanation, Tushan Yu couldn't help but show a subtle expression. He said to Tushan Ling, "Send a message to Qinchuan. If he needs it, we can help him change his stage at any time." Hearing Tushan Yu's words, Tushan Ling hesitated and said, "He doesn't want to join us. Why should we help him?" "You're wrong. We're not helping him. Even if we wanted to help him, he wouldn't want to." Tushan Yu chuckled and said to Tushan Ling, "I'm showing Qinchuan the power of our Tushan family." Hearing Tushan Yu's explanation, Tushan Ling suddenly understood. He immediately said to Tushan Yu, "No wonder you're the seventh elder. You're really smart. I'll arrange it right now." After Tushan Ling left, Tushan Yu displayed the scene around stage D89 on the crystal screen. Looking at Qinchuan, who was carving rune arrays, he couldn't help but have a trace of rumination in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "Qinchuan, oh Qinchuan, after this incident, you should know how cruel the reality is. A genius without a background is nothing more than a genius. He will never have the chance to exchange his potential for strength." Chapter 897. Time passed slowly. The first day of the opening ceremony was over just like that. During the day, the audience changed again and again, and the booth rotated back and forth twice. However, Qinchuan, who was sitting in the corner, never moved. Apart from the occasional absent-minded glance at him, almost no one paid any attention to this outsider. Qinchuan had already received the message sent by Tushan Ling. However, he only appreciated the kindness of the Tushan family. He had no intention of asking for their help at all, because he knew that the Tushan family would not be so kind. Just a little bit more. Qinchuan looked at the only empty spot on the diagram with a hint of expectation in his eyes. As long as he could carve the last rune and successfully assemble the experimental rune array, he would be considered to have passed the hurdle and could attempt to carve a 5th-level rune array. Although Qinchuan was already a little tired, his mind was still 100% clear. He carved the rune bit by bit without any mistake. When he finished the last stroke, the experimental rune array immediately released an extremely bright silver-white light and slowly emitted a faint wave of energy. "It's done." Qinchuan looked at the diagram floating in front of him with a hint of excitement on his face. He did it! Sophie and Zhuasisi, who had been paying attention to Qinchuan from afar, could not help but become excited when they saw that Qinchuan had successfully carved the experimental rune array. They cheered for Qinchuan's success. He did it! He really did it! Zhuo cheered. The youngest 5th-level rune array master in the history of the same galaxy is about to be born. He has only taken the first step. He still has the second, more important step to take, and that is to carve the real 5th-level rune array. Compared to the excited Zhuo, Sophie was also very excited, but she still maintained a certain level of rationality. Qinchuan's current success was only a good start. The road that Qinchuan had to take next was the most critical and the most difficult one. Hearing Sophie's words, Zhuo gradually calmed down. Just as Sophie had said, it was still too early for her to be happy. Now, let's see what kind of level 5 talisman array Qinchuan is going to inscribe. I remember that there should be 2 auxiliary arrays in Master Tianin's note. Qinchuan should have seen them before. Sophie curiously looked at Qinchuan, anticipating what Qinchuan would do next. However, to her surprise, Qinchuan actually sat down cross-legged and did not immediately begin to inscribe the level 5 glyph array. Seeing this scene, Zhuo explained to Sophie, Qinchuan has consumed a lot of spiritual power to inscribe this experimental glyph array. Now he needs to take a good rest and recover. So that's how it is. I don't know much about talisman formation masters, so I wonder how long Qinchuan will require to recover? After all, there's only a little more than a day left until the opening ceremony. Sophie glanced at Zhuo and asked, "Do you have any idea?" Zhuo shook her head and replied, "Every talisman formation master's situation is different. I also don't know how long Qinchuan will require to recover." Hearing Zhuo reply, Sophie's expression immediately became somewhat subtle. She whispered, "I hope he won't need too long." What Sophie and Zhuo did not expect was that Qinchuan's adjustment would take an entire day. Zhuo looked at Qinchuan, who was still sitting cross-legged in meditation, and a wisp of anxiety couldn't help but flash across her face. She whispered, "There's less than 10 hours left until the opening ceremony ends. If Qinchuan doesn't take action now, I'm afraid he won't have a chance." Sophie sighed and said to Zhuo, "Don't think about it. There's no chance. Qinchuan took more than a day to inscribe that experimental glyph array. Even if he wakes up immediately and is in peak condition, it's still too difficult for him to inscribe a 5th-grade glyph array within 10 hours. For some veteran 5th-grade glyph array masters, inscribing a 5th-grade glyph array only required a thought. But for Qinchuan, who had just touched the threshold of 5th-grade glyph array, being able to inscribe his first 5th-grade glyph array in 10 days was already considered a genius among geniuses. And there were only 10 hours left for Qinchuan. After hearing Sophie's words, Zhuo expression immediately became unsightly. If Qinchuan was eliminated, then not only would Qinchuan lose, but their Caesar City Glyph Array Master Guild would also be removed from the list and would no longer be one of the top 10 Glyph Array Master Guild. Zhuo felt a wave of dizziness when she thought of the consequences. Could it be that we really can't hold on to the foundation that Father left for us sisters? Everyone, please vote for contestant number 36 from Tianxing City, Yali. She's beautiful, has a sweet voice, and is extremely skilled at inscribing glyph arrays. Dear audience, please vote for contestant number 28 from Emma City, Sil. He's handsome and elegant, and is the dream of 900 million girls. Buy your tickets, 1,000 star coins per ticket. Fair trade. Amidst the lively shouts, the majority of the audience swarmed towards the people who had bought the tickets. A small portion of the audience walked towards the contestants they admired, preparing to cast their precious votes for the contestants they admired. Facing those who had bought their tickets, those who were doing their best to canvass for votes couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy on their faces. If they also had such robust financial resources and strength, They wouldn't need to spend so much effort shouting here. In the crowd, Zwilingling looked at the vast crowd around her and couldn't help but reveal a trace of apprehension on her face. Just a moment ago, her elder sister, Zwasisi, had transferred a large sum of money to her, wanting her to buy Chinchuan's tickets. However, they had set the price at 500 star coins per ticket, which was half of the price of others. What should she do amidst the shouts of 1,000 star coins for a ticket? Just as Zwilingling was hesitating whether or not she should try shouting, an extremely astonishing fluctuation of energy suddenly came from afar, attracting everyone's attention and causing the scene to instantly quiet down. What an astonishing fluctuation of energy! What's going on over there? Some people looked in the direction of the fluctuation of energy with astonishment. As time passed, the fluctuation of energy became stronger and stronger, as if a sun was slowly rising, illuminating the entire square and even the entire Sai-Na city. I don't know. Is something big going to happen? Let's go and take a look. Go, 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 let's go and see what's going on over there. Amidst the rowdy cheers of the audience, the crowd went with the flow and surged in the direction of the energy fluctuations. At this moment, a booth that was like an isolated island drifting away from the public's view entered everyone's field of vision. Chapter 898. In the distance, a wisp of astonishment couldn't help but flash through the depths of Zwasisi's eyes as she gazed at booth D89 that had suddenly erupted with an extremely powerful fluctuation of energy, and she asked in a low voice, "What's going on?" Sophie similarly frowned as she gazed at Chinchuan, who sat cross-legged on the booth. Chinchuan clearly didn't make any movements, so what's with the sudden fluctuation of energy? Could it be that Chinchuan is about to break through to the intermediate stage of the soul transformation realm? Right when Zwasisi and Sophie were puzzled by the sudden change in Chinchuan's body, the spectators that had surged over after noticing the fluctuation of energy had arrived nearby, and all of them shot their gazes towards Chinchuan, who sat cross-legged on booth D89. That fluctuation of energy seems to be emanating from this person. Could it be that he's cultivating on the booth? Someone raised this question with slight surprise. It was the first time that they'd seen a participating talisman formation master cultivating on the opening ceremony of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange. Could it be that this booth wasn't used for talisman formation masters to display their talisman formations? Even though the organizer didn't strictly forbid cultivation on the booth, it was truly the first time that they'd seen a talisman formation master not doing his job on the booth. I thought some formidable talisman formation had appeared. So it turns out that it's the fluctuation of energy produced by cultivation. Disperse, disperse. Someone had a dejected expression. They'd come here to see if any unexpected surprises would appear, yet they'd never imagined that it was just a talisman formation master cultivating. It was truly disappointing. More and more people in the crowd revealed expressions of disappointment. Zwasisi and Sophie couldn't help but reveal anxious expressions when they were about to leave. This place was so remote, and so many spectators had arrived with great difficulty. If they were to allow these spectators to leave just like that, then they might really lose. Everyone, I know what he's doing. He's not cultivating. Right at this moment, Zwasisi suddenly stood out and shouted towards the crowd. When the spectators that were about to leave heard Zwasisi's shout, all of them instinctively turned their heads to look at Zwasisi, and their eyes revealed a wisp of curiosity. "You know what he's doing?" Someone asked Zwasisi. "Then tell me what he's up to." "Yes, hurry up and tell us. We are still waiting to sell the tickets." Someone shouted at Zwasisi. "If there is nothing else, we are leaving." When faced with the questions of everyone, Zwasisi hesitated for a moment before making a decision in the end. She took a deep breath and said to everyone, "He's contestant number 109, Chinchuan. He's not cultivating now, but attempting to break through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master. When Swassisi mustered up the courage to make a desperate decision to say these words, the scene suddenly quieted down, but the silence was soon broken by a burst of laughter. Ah! I'm dying of laughter! Breaking through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master on the spot? You guys really dare to dream and boast. Exactly. Those that don't know would think that becoming a grade 5 talisman formation master is as simple as advancing from the chi refinement realm to the foundation establishment realm. We can understand that all of you drew lots to a remote corner and wanted to use some methods to attract attention, but all of you said that he's attempting to break through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master. This is slightly exaggerated. Could it be that all of you think we're idiots? If you want to create a gimmick, then create a gimmick. Don't take all of us to be idiots and play tricks on us, alright? If he's really able to break through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master, then all of us will vote for him. But can he? When faced with the disdainful laughter and ridicule of the spectators, Swassisi's face couldn't help but flush red. She wanted to explain to the spectators and tell them that Qin Chuan was indeed attempting to break through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master. However, the spectators had utterly no intention of paying attention to her, and they all took her to be a madwoman. When she saw the spectators turn around and leave, Swassisi's eyes couldn't help but reveal a wisp of despair. Her gamble this time had failed, and not only would it cause Qin Chuan to be eliminated, it would even cause Qin Chuan to become the laughingstock of the entire Sai-Na city. I screwed up and implicated Qin Chuan. It's my fault, it's all my fault, OM. Right at this moment, a silver-gray light was suddenly released from booth D89, illuminating the surroundings into a silver-gray world. A huge talisman formation slowly appeared above Qin Chuan's head, emitting a heart-palpitating pressure. This sudden change alarmed everyone nearby. The spectators who were in the process of leaving all stopped in their tracks and turned to look at the huge talisman formation floating in the sky, their eyes revealing a wisp of astonishment. This aura, it can't really be a grade 5 talisman formation master, right? Oh my god! Could it be that the person just now wasn't lying? This contestant number 109 has really broken through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master? I recognize this talisman formation master. It really is a grade 5 talisman formation master. An exclamation attracted the attention of the crowd. They all turned to look at the person who had said that he recognized this talisman formation master. Their eyes were filled with curiosity and anxiety, and they urgently wanted to know what kind of talisman formation master this was. Faced with the crowd's gazes, that person said to the crowd in an extremely excited tone, "This is a grade 5 talisman formation created by our Heavenly Sound City's great master Tianyin, the Heavenly Sound Formation Master. I once went to the Heavenly Sound City's Talisman Formation Master Association and was fortunate enough to see the Heavenly Sound Formation Master with my own eyes. I definitely won't be mistaken." After hearing this person's explanation, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They once again turned to look at Qin Chuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the booth with his eyes closed. At this moment, their gazes were no longer filled with disdain and ridicule. Instead, there was only endless admiration and excitement. Everyone present had heard of the Heavenly Sound City's great master Tianyin. He was a renowned veteran grade 5 talisman formation master. Moreover, he was one of the judges of this Talisman Formation Master Exchange. His attainments in talisman formations were enough to rank him in the top 3 in the sane galaxy. Moreover, the Heavenly Sound Formation created by the great Master Tianyin was a powerful talisman formation master among elementary grade 5 talisman formations. It was comparable to an intermediate grade 5 talisman formation master. Qin Chuan was able to inscribe such a difficult grade 5 talisman formation master when he had just broken through to become a grade 5 talisman formation master. Such talent could no longer be described as genius. The most exciting thing for the crowd was that they had personally witnessed the birth of a Grade 5 Talisman Formation Master. Booth D89, contestant number 109, Qin Chuan. They would probably never forget this person's name and the scene they had witnessed today. Sisi and Sophie revealed extremely excited expressions as they gazed at the heavenly sound formation floating above Qin Chuan's head. Sisi's eyes couldn't help but turn red. Qin Chuan didn't disappoint their trust and expectations. He had really succeeded in breaking through to become a Grade 5 Talisman Formation Master. He was the number one person of this generation who had never been seen before. Chapter 899. Qin Chuan was oblivious to the cheers outside the booth. At this moment, his mind was completely immersed in his own mental world. Although Qin Chuan didn't move from the outside and just sat there cross-legged, the inside Qin Chuan was furiously writing in his mental world, completing one attempt after another. Finally, after failing 80 times, he succeeded in inscribing the Heavenly Sound Array and officially stepped into the ranks of a 5th grade formation master. The Heavenly Sound Array is a perception-type auxiliary formation. It uses sound to explore and transmit signals. Qin Chuan looked at the Heavenly Sound Array before him with a smile on his face. Although the Heavenly Sound Array doesn't possess any offensive or defensive capabilities, it is a perfect combination of radar and alarm. It's really… Qin Chuan suddenly frowned and looked around. He discovered that his mental world was showing signs of collapsing. Oh no, I've exhausted too much mental power to inscribe the Heavenly Sound Array. I've almost squeezed out all the mental power in my mind. I have to adjust my state and recover some mental power as soon as possible. After thinking about this, Qin Chuan's figure immediately retreated from his mental world. His consciousness returned to his body, and he began to meditate without stopping. It was at this moment that the clamorous cheers outside traveled into his ears. Vote, vote. Vote for Qin Chuan. If such a genius can't shine in the next round of the competition, then he'll be a disgrace to the entire Sane Star system. We have to vote for Qin Chuan. If a 5th grade formation master can't enter the next round, then no one else is worthy. One vote for each of us. Qin Chuan enters the finals early. Qin Chuan couldn't help but be slightly stunned when he heard these cheers. He slowly opened his eyes and looked forward. He was surprised to find that the originally deserted venue was actually packed with a black mass of spectators. There was no end to the crowd at a glance. Qin Chuan is awake. He's awake. When the people near the booth saw Qin Chuan open his eyes, they immediately shouted, causing the noisy scene to suddenly quiet down. Everyone looked at Qin Chuan, their eyes full of excitement and excitement. Boom! Earth-shattering cheers erupted once again. Some of the audience even threw the flowers in their hands onto the stage to show their support and love for Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan looked at the audience near the booth, his face full of shock. He did not understand why there were suddenly so many people on his side, but when he noticed the Heavenly Sound Array floating above his head, he understood everything. Turns out that the Heavenly Sound Array doesn't just appear in my mind, it can also be projected into the real world. Qin Chuan glanced at the Heavenly Sound Array above his head, then slowly closed his eyes and began to meditate, no longer caring about the outside world. In the box, Tushan Yu sat still, but the expression on his face was extremely gloomy, even a little bit ugly. Through the crystal screen, he could clearly see the Heavenly Sound Array floating above Qin Chuan's head. The faint silver-gray light emitted by the Heavenly Sound Array was so dazzling in his eyes. Seeing the gloomy expression on Tushan Yu's face, Tushan Ling, who was standing beside him, did not even dare to breathe loudly. He knew that Tushan Yu was on the verge of exploding. If he said something wrong, Tushan Yu would definitely fly into a rage, and by then, he would have to bear the consequences. Geniuses who have passed the 9 levels of mysterious heaven tribulation are rare, but our Tushan family doesn't necessarily want them. However, a genius who has the law of thunder and can help others pass the tribulation is someone our Tushan family must have. And if this genius is also a level 5 talisman formation master. Tushan Yu's voice became lower and lower, but his eyes became brighter and brighter, and the look in his eyes became sharper and brighter. No matter what, Qin Chuan has to join our Tushan family. If he can't, we'll kill him. Hearing Tushan Yu's words, Tushan Ling, who was standing aside, couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes. He asked, "Are we still going to wait?" Hearing this, Tushan Yu took a deep breath and said, "What happened today is different from what happened when Qin Chuan passed the heavenly tribulation in Heath City. We can't shut so many people's mouths, and the news will definitely spread to other forces. If we push Qin Chuan too hard, we'll be pushing him into the arms of other forces. For now, we should focus on comforting Qin Chuan. As long as he doesn't show any intention of joining other forces, we don't have to do anything." Hearing Tushan Yu's words, Tushan Ling nodded and responded, "I understand. Go and choose a suitable gift. Go and congratulate Qin Chuan with the sincerity of our Tushan family." Tushan Yu then reminded Tushan Ling, "Remember, just congratulate him. Don't ask about anything else." "Got it." Tushan Ling replied and turned around to prepare the gift. After Tushan Ling left, Tushan Yu took a deep look at Qin Chuan on the crystal screen. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Qin Chuan, the road is under your feet. How you want to walk it depends on your choice." Because Qin Chuan had broken through to become a 5th-level formation master, almost all the audience was attracted to this side. Although they couldn't see Qin Chuan's figure clearly, they still hoped to see the eye-catching heavenly sound formation. As a result, no one showed any interest in the other booth. The faces of the contestants were extremely unsightly. Who would have thought that a guy who was destined to be eliminated after drawing the worst lot would bounce back and make such a big scene? They also wanted to make some noise to attract the audience back. But now, except for someone who could break through to become a 5th-level formation master, there was no other way to attract the audience back. If it was really that easy to become a 5th-level formation master, they would have done it a long time ago. There was no need to wait until now. What made the audience envious and sad the most was that they had heard that Qin Chuan was the super genius who had passed the mysterious Sky 9 levels tribulation. It was simply infuriating to compare oneself to others. The crowded situation near booth D89 finally alarmed the higher-ups of Sai-Na City. The organizers had no choice but to disperse the crowd and let the audience return to their seat. However, in order to satisfy the curiosity of the audience, the organizers still made concessions and allowed the audience to come in batches to see the heavenly sound formation and Qin Chuan. Only then did the audience disperse in satisfaction and not cause any big trouble. It was also at this time that the various forces in Tron Nebula received the information about Qin Chuan. They knew that an unparalleled genius who was extremely talented in both cultivation and formation arts had been born in the Sai-Na galaxy. Chapter 900. Sai-Na City, Imperial City. Odyssey sat on a golden bench as he gazed subtly at the envoys from the 4 powers standing below the stage. The expression on his face could be said to be a little playful. Sky Rime Valley, 9-Tier Mountain, Hulk Corporation, and Bright Moon Palace. I really didn't expect that 4 of the 10 great powers of Tron Nebula would come in just a short 2 hours after the incident. Your presence really brings light to my humble Imperial City. When he first heard that someone had broken through to become a Level 5 Formation Master at the opening ceremony of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange Conference, he had guessed that various powers would come to recruit him. However, he didn't expect these powers to come so quickly and with such shocking backgrounds. Haha, Your Majesty must be joking. We're also thirsty for talent. The 9-tier mountain envoy with a goatee chuckled and said to Odyssey, I only hope that your majesty can arrange for us to meet this young man. As for other matters, we won't trouble your majesty. My Hulk Corporation wants this person. The Hulk Corporation envoy with a large figure and a green body snorted coldly, expressing his determination to get Qin Chuan. You people from the Hulk Corporation are all muscles for brains. It's a complete waste for such an outstanding formation master to join your Hulk Corporation. A beautiful young woman in a palace dress said indifferently, Only my Sky Rime Valley is Qinchuan's best choice. Although the Sky Rime Valley is not bad, it's still a little lacking compared to my Bright Moon Palace. After all, our Bright Moon Palace is ranked 6th among the 10 great powers. A middle-aged man in a green robe with a bright moon symbol on his forehead smiled faintly, as if he didn't take the competitors beside him seriously at all. Odyssey's heart moved slightly when he heard the exchange of words below the stage. He said to them, Envoys, Qin Chuan is currently participating in the opening ceremony of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange Conference. Why don't we meet him after the opening ceremony ends? The envoys from various powers frowned slightly when they heard Odyssey's words and were slightly displeased. The reason they were in such a hurry to find him was that their strength was considered to be at the bottom of the 10 great powers. If they didn't try to recruit Qin Chuan as soon as possible, once other stronger powers appeared, they wouldn't have the slightest chance at all. Great Emperor, can't you make arrangements for us as soon as possible? The 9th mountain emissary frowned as he looked at Odysseus. Or is it that the power behind us isn't enough in the eyes of the Emperor? The emissary of the Sky Rhythm Valley sneered and said to Odysseus, Or is it that the great Emperor has promised someone else, so he is unwilling to help? Odyssey chuckled in the face of their overbearing attitude. His gaze suddenly became sharp as he said in an indifferent tone, What? If I don't help you, are you going to attack me? Seeing Odysseus's expression change, everyone's expression also changed slightly. Although they all had big forces behind them, they were only at the Huashan stage. There was a huge gap between them and Odysseus, who was at the Dongshu stage. If Odysseus really got angry and attacked them regardless of the consequences, then they would be the ones to suffer in the end. Since the great Emperor is busy, we won't disturb you any further. Farewell. The people of the Bright Moon Palace were the most sensible. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, they immediately took their leave without any hesitation. Seeing this, the people of the other forces also turned and left. In the blink of an eye, everyone had left. Odysseus saw them leave, and could not help but snort coldly. He said in a low voice, They are just some juniors at the Huashan stage. Do they really think that they can do whatever they want because they have big forces behind them? As a mighty practitioner at the Dongshu stage and the lord of the Sai-Na galaxy, Odysseus was neither servile nor overbearing even when facing the leaders of those big forces. When had he ever been forced by some juniors like this? If these people had not left in time, perhaps he would have taught them a lesson and let them know what it meant to speak and act with caution. But that young man called Qin Chuan is really extraordinary. Not only did he overcome the 9 levels of the profound heaven tribulation at such a young age, he even broke through to become a level 5 talisman formation master. Truly a rare natural talent. If such an unparalleled genius suddenly appeared in my Sai-Na galaxy, it would absolutely be a loss to my Sai-Na galaxy if he was recruited by another power. Odysseus muttered in a low voice and narrowed his eyes slightly. He had to think of a way to make Qin Chuan stay in the Sai-Na galaxy. During the last few hours of the opening ceremony of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange Conference, Qin Chuan was like an animal in a zoo that was being visited by the audience over and over again. Every single person was filled with curiosity towards him, as if they'd seen a novel species. Even with Qin Chuan's mental state, he couldn't help but be slightly moved. It'll end in another 3 minutes. Qin Chuan couldn't help but reveal a wisp of helplessness as he gazed at the audience that were slowly moving forward in an orderly manner near the exhibition platform. Not only were these audience surrounding him, some even shouted at him and asked him to cooperate with them, such as making a scissor gesture. Qin Chuan was naturally unwilling to agree to these requests, but as he gazed at the voting devices they waved in their hands, the corners of Qin Chuan's mouth curled into a smile in the end, and he made an extremely forced scissor gesture. Ding dong! After a wave of clear ringing of the bell, the opening ceremony of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange Conference had finally come to an end, and Qin Chuan was finally able to descend from the exhibition platform and obtain relief. Qin Chuan. Zhuo walked swiftly to Qin Chuan's side, and her eyes were filled with delight as she gazed at Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan chuckled as he gazed at the smile on Zhuo face, and then he asked, "How was it? I probably didn't disappoint you, right? You're really too formidable." Zhuo gazed at Qin Chuan while her heart was filled with joy. "I believe that with your performance, you'll surely be able to slaughter everyone in the upcoming competition." "I hope so," Qin Chuan smiled. "Let's leave this place first. I'm afraid I'll be surrounded and watched like an animal again." As they spoke, Qin Chuan and Zhuo had already turned around and boarded a flying shuttle that was parked at the side. They left in advance before the audience gathered here, and they set off towards the Rose Hotel. On the way back to the Rose Hotel, Zhuo gazed at Qin Chuan and said, "Tu Shanliang contacted me earlier. He wants to meet you." Qin Chuan's gaze flashed slightly when he heard Zhuo, and then he asked, "Do you think I should meet him? Why did he come looking for me?" Zhuo sighed and then she said to Qin Chuan, "It's none other than for the sake of representing the Tu Shan clan to recruit you. You're already sufficiently outstanding, and now that you've broken through to the 5th level of the Talisman Formation Master Realm, it can be said to have caused your status to rise explosively. In my opinion, it isn't just the Tu Shan clan that wants to recruit you, the other powers will surely extend an olive branch to you as well. You better be mentally prepared." Chapter 901. Congratulations, Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan and Zhuo arrived at the entrance of the Rose Hotel. As soon as they got off the shuttle, they bumped into Tu Shanliang, who was full of smiles. Hearing Tu Shanliang's words, Qin Chuan chuckled and said to Tu Shanliang, "Thank you for your kindness, Brother Ling. Don't be in a hurry to thank me. I haven't given you the gift yet. It's not too late to thank me after you see the gift." Tu Shanliang chuckled and said to Qin Chuan, "But before I see the gift, Brother Qin, don't you want to invite me to your room?" Hearing this, Qin Chuan glanced at Tu Shanliang and said, "Then please." Qin Chuan, Zhuo and Zhuo entered the Rose Hotel and came to Qin Chuan's room. Qin Chuan and Tu Shanliang sat down while Zhuo went to make tea. At this time, Tu Shanliang looked at Qin Chuan and said with emotion, "Brother Qin, to be honest, I didn't expect you to reach such heights. A 5th-grade Talisman Formation Master who passed the 9 heavenly tribulations, your future will be limitless. Maybe I'll need Brother Qin's help in the future." Qin Chuan smiled and replied, "Brother Ling, you must be joking. You're a member of the Tu Shan family. Who dares to offend you in Tron Nebula?" Tu Shanliang shook his head and said with emotion, "After all, it's the strength of the whole family, not my personal strength. To be honest, I really envy you. With your current status, you don't even have to bow to the patriarch of the Tu Shan family. You can sit on the same level as the 7th Elder. I'm afraid I'll have to look up to you in the future." Originally, although Qin Chuan was talented, Tu Shanliang didn't feel that he was inferior to Qin Chuan. After all, he had the Tu Shan family behind him, which was the strongest force in Tron Nebula. However, the situation was different now. Qin Chuan was not just a genius with unrealized potential, but a genuine 5th-grade Talisman Formation Master. What was more terrifying was that Qin Chuan was only 72 years old this year. A 72-year-old 5th-grade talisman formation master who passed the 9 heavenly tribulations. Just thinking about it was terrifying. As for why Tu Shanliang knew that Qin Chuan was 72 years old, it was naturally because Qin Chuan had to register his age when he participated in the competition. It was worth mentioning that Qin Chuan also had to take a bone-touching test at that time. He found an excuse not to take the bone-touching test and asked Sophie to use her identity as Grand Duke Angel's personal guard to fool this matter. If Qin Chuan had no choice but to take the bone-touching test and reveal his true age of 27 years old, Tron Nebula wouldn't be the only one who was shocked now. Brother Ling, although I've become a 5th-grade talisman formation master, I still have many things to learn from you. You don't have to belittle yourself. Qin Chuan looked at Tu Shanliang and said, we can still sit together and chat and drink tea. Doesn't that already explain a lot? Hearing this, Tu Shanliang laughed and said to Qin Chuan, you're right. I was thinking too much. Qin Chuan picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. Then, he said to Tu Shanliang, Brother Ling, we're all on the same side. Let's be frank. Why did you come to find me this time? Tu Shanliang smiled and took out an exquisite gift box from his storage ring. He placed it in front of Qin Chuan and said to Qin Chuan, I really came here this time to give you a congratulatory gift. I have no other intentions and no other mission. It's as simple as that. As he spoke, Tu Shanliang pointed at the gift box in front of Qin Chuan and said, open it and take a look. I hope you like it. Qin Chuan picked up the gift box and opened it. Inside the gift box was a light blue talisman pen. The talisman pen was engraved with a pattern of a qilin. The pattern was so lifelike that it looked like it was going to jump out of the pen and release an amazing power. Seeing this talisman pen, Qin Chuan couldn't help but show a trace of surprise in his eyes. What a powerful talisman pen! Hearing Qin Chuan's exclamation, Tu Shanliang smiled and explained to Qin Chuan, this talisman pen is called the Qilin pen. It was carved from a stone that was soaked in the blood of the ancient thunder Qilin. The hair on the tip of the pen is the softest hair from the stomach of the thunder beast. It has the property of thunder affinity. Combining the two together, this talisman pen is definitely the most suitable for you. In fact, Qin Chuan didn't need Tu Shanliang to explain. He could feel that this talisman pen seemed to be tailor-made for him. It perfectly matched all of his features. This talisman pen is too precious. Qin Chuan raised his head, looked at Tu Shanliang and said with a complicated tone, if I accept it, I will owe your Tushan family a huge favor. Qin Chuan knew that Tu Shanliang couldn't have given him such a precious talisman pen. Elder 7 must have asked Tu Shanliang to give this talisman pen to him. Qin Chuan truly liked this talisman pen, but if he accepted it, he would owe the Tushan family a huge favor. What's so precious about it? Just take it. Tu Shanliang looked at Qin Chuan and smiled. This talisman pen is indeed precious in your hands, but in the hands of people like us who don't have the property of thunder, it's useless. What's the use of it? Hearing Tu Shanliang's words, Qin Chuan took a deep breath and said to Tu Shanliang, in that case, I will accept this talisman pen. Please go back and tell Elder 7 that I appreciate the Tushan family's kindness. This time, I owe you a favor. Haha, since you said so, I won't be polite. Tu Shanliang laughed and said to Qin Chuan, I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye. Goodbye. Qin Chuan stood up and walked Tu Shanliang out of the room. He stood at the door and watched Tu Shanliang walk into the elevator. Then, he turned back to the room and looked at the talisman pen again. Zhuosisi looked at Qin Chuan's expression and said to Qin Chuan, you don't seem to want to owe him a favor. Qin Chuan sighed and said to Zhuosisi, this talisman pen is very important to me. It can at least increase the speed of inscribing 5th-level talisman arrays by a quarter. Moreover, it can be compatible with my body and mind, making it easier for me to inscribe 5th-level talisman arrays. Tu Shanhue saw this, so he asked Tu Shanliang to send this talisman pen to me. Zuosisi glanced at the talisman brush when she heard this, and then she gazed at Qin Chuan before she spoke with a rather subtle tone. They've surely discerned that you're a person that values relationships greatly, so they used such methods to make you owe them a favor. Qin Chuan laughed bitterly and helplessly said, but it's obvious that I saw through their intentions. At the same time, I allowed them to succeed. Among cultivators, there are very few who keep their promises like you. Zuosisi looked at Qin Chuan. If it were someone else, they wouldn't be so embarrassed. You have to have a conscience. Qin Chuan smiled. Without a conscience, what's the point of being powerful? Chapter 902. Less than 10 minutes after Qin Chuan sent Tu Shanliang off, someone came to pay him a visit. I'm Su Rong, a deacon of Bright Moon Palace. Su Rong stood at the entrance and gazed at Qin Chuan with a smile on his face. He seemed extremely refined, and the first impression he gave others was very good. Qin Chuan looked at Su Rong and asked, "May I know why Mr. Su is looking for me? I heard that Mr. Qin has always been alone and has yet to find a place to belong to, so I've specially come to recruit Mr. Qin on behalf of Bright Moon Palace. I wish to invite Mr. Qin to join Bright Moon Palace, and my Bright Moon Palace is willing to treat you with the position of an elder." Su Rong said to Qin Chuan, "If Mr. Qin has any other conditions, please feel free to raise them. Our Bright Moon Palace will try our best to satisfy Mr. Qin's needs." Qin Chuan glanced at Su Rong with a slightly subtle gaze when he heard this, and then he replied, "I'm sorry, I only wish to properly participate in the Talisman Formation Master Exchange, and I don't intend to join any power for now." Su Rong wasn't surprised when he heard Qin Chuan's words, and he chuckled before he said to Qin Chuan, "Mr. Qin is already a Grade 5 Talisman Formation Master now, yet you still treat the competition seriously. You're truly a role model for our generation. Since Mr. Qin doesn't intend to join any power, then I won't disturb you any longer. But before I leave, can we exchange contact information so that Mr. Qin can contact me if he needs anything in the future?" Qin Chuan didn't refuse Su Rong's request to add him as a friend. He directly added Su Rong as a friend, and then he watched Su Rong leave. Qin Chuan originally thought that he could finally have some peace and quiet, but who would have imagined that Su Rong was merely the beginning? After this, he successively met the representatives of a few dozen powers. It's truly too tiring. It's simply even more tiring than when I inscribed the Heaven Note Talisman formation earlier. I truly never imagined that so many powers would actually come knocking on my door. Moreover, all of them aren't powers from Sane Galaxy. It's truly too terrifying." Qin Chuan sat on the sofa with a bitter smile on his face. He didn't plan to continue receiving people who came in the future. He might as well hang his contact number outside the door. If anyone came in the future, they could just add his contact number. He really didn't want to see anyone again. Zuosisi looked at Qin Chuan's painful expression and chuckled. Then she said to Qin Chuan, "Actually, you don't have to meet these people. Why do you have to meet so many people?" Qin Chuan sighed helplessly and said to Zuosisi, "I'm just trying to protect myself." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Zuosisi was slightly stunned. Then, after thinking for a moment, she understood what Qin Chuan meant. Her gaze towards Qin Chuan couldn't help but become complicated. She whispered, "You're trying to deal with the various powers so that they would think that they have the opportunity to recruit you. This way, no one will secretly attack you in order to prevent other powers from recruiting you, right?" Qin Chuan nodded and replied, "That's exactly what I meant. Although this move seems to be useless and can be seen through at a glance, it's the only way I can think of right now. After all, I'm alone. If I make these powers feel dissatisfied, then they will casually do something that will make me feel very uncomfortable." Qin Chuan felt somewhat helpless. If he had any other choice, he wouldn't have used such a stupid method. Although he was now a 5th-tier talisman formation master, the heavenly sound formation couldn't help him in battle at all. Therefore, his battle strength didn't increase at all. Any Dongshu stage expert could easily deal with him. Seeing the helpless expression on Qinchuan's face, Swassisi sighed and said to Qinchuan, "In the past, when I was in Caesar City, I felt that it was extremely difficult for me to maintain the balance among so many people. However, compared to you now, my troubles are really nothing." "Alright, let's not talk about this today." Qinchuan looked at Swassisi. "You should tell me about the next competition. I want to know what I need to do in the next competition." Hearing Qinchuan's words, Swassisi replied without hesitation, "Battle. The next competition will be between you talisman formation masters. The 100 contestants will be divided into 50 groups by drawing lots for internal battles. The winners will enter the next round and the losers will be eliminated." Hearing this, Qinchuan asked curiously, "Will we be using talisman formations to battle?" Swassisi nodded and said to Qinchuan, "Although battle formations of the 5th tier and above are rare, battle formations of the 5th tier and below are still relatively common. Therefore, most talisman formation masters have several types of battle formations. You should know quite a few battle formations, right?" Qinchuan nodded and replied, "Although I don't know many battle formations, it's enough for this competition." With the strength of Qinchuan's mental strength, he could inscribe a 4th-tier battle formation in the blink of an eye. He could eliminate his opponents before they could inscribe their battle formations. If nothing unexpected happened, it would be very easy for him to enter the top 3. "Is there anyone I need to pay special attention to?" Qinchuan looked at Swassisi. "I'm talking about those talisman formation Dao geniuses. Although I'm a 5th talisman formation master now, the heavenly sound formation won't be of any use in battle. I'm basically still an advanced talisman formation master. I've already considered this point for you. Among the 100 contestants, there are only 2 people you need to be careful of. They are Bi Lang and Shu Tao." Swassisi said to Qinchuan, "Shu Tao is a genius that the imperial family recruited a few years ago. He's now 89 years old and is already at the great circle of the nascent soul stage. He's only a step away from the soul formation stage. Under the meticulous nurturing of the imperial family, his attainments in talisman formation Dao are extremely high. He's mastered at least 20 types of battle formations. In terms of battle achievements, he's never been at a disadvantage against a 5th talisman formation master. Although the 5th talisman formation master was an auxiliary talisman formation master, this is still shocking enough. As for the other person, Bi Lang, he's the most important person you need to pay attention to." When Bi Lang was mentioned, Swassisi's expression instantly became extremely serious. She seriously said to Qinchuan, "Bi Lang is from Wolf City. He's the son of the Talisman Formation Master Guild's president. Just like you, he has the ability to create void formations. Moreover, he's a standard battle formation master. He only knows battle formations. Among them, there are at least 10 fourth battle formations." Hearing Swassisi's introduction of Bi Lang, Qinchuan's expression also became somewhat serious. If Bi Lang was really as abnormal as Swassisi said, then he was indeed an opponent worthy of being treated seriously. "I understand. Thank you for your reminder," Qinchuan exhaled and said to Swassisi, "I'll pay attention to these 2 people." Swassisi glanced at Qinchuan and said in a low voice, "Don't feel too much pressure. You've already performed very well. Just do your best." Chapter 903. Early the next morning, the results of the Talisman Array Master Exchange Conference were announced to the world. As the only Level 5 Talisman Array Master, Qinchuan's opponent became the focus of everyone's attention. Number 109 Qinchuan versus number 77 Wang Qi. When the audience saw the results of the draw, They were all excited because Wang Qi came from Black Chess City and was the descendant of the Grand Duke of Black Chess. Speaking of which, the Grand Duke of Black Chess was also a legendary figure in the Sai-Na star system. When he was young, the Grand Duke of Black Chess was just an unknown soldier. After a few decades of hibernation, he became the commander of an army with more than 10,000 soldiers under his command. In a war against the Void Creatures, the Grand Duke of Black Chess led his 10,000 soldiers to outflank the Void Creatures and directly attacked the Void Creatures' rear base, establishing the foundation for victory in that war in one fell swoop. Because of this battle, the Grand Duke of Black Chess became famous and became a well-known hero of the Sai-Na star system. It was also because of this battle that the Grand Duke of Black Chess had a meteoric rise. In less than 100 years, he became a commander and was conferred the title of Grand Duke of Black Chess with Black Chess City as his fief. After a few hundred years, the Grand Duke of Black Chess had countless children and grandchildren. However, Wang Qi was the only one he doted on the most and had been personally nurtured by him. Although Wang Qi's cultivation was only at the great circle of the nascent soul stage, Wang Qi's attainments in the Tao of talisman arrays had almost reached the peak that could be achieved at his age. He was only one step away from becoming a level 5 talisman array master. If Qin Chuan didn't appear, perhaps Wang Qi would be the one who received the most attention. However, when Qin Chuan appeared with the title of level 5 talisman array master, he was destined to be the true main character. Just as everyone was discussing the results of the draw, Qin Chuan also received the news and understood some of Wang Qi's past information. This Wang Qi isn't simple. The reason why I didn't mention him to you yesterday is because this person is slightly inferior to Bi Lang and Shu Tao. However, if you want to rank him, the threat that he poses to you is enough to be ranked in the top 5. Zhou Sisi sat in front of Qin Chuan and felt very apologetic for her mistake yesterday. This isn't your fault. After all, you didn't know who I would be in the same group as me. Who would have thought that I would encounter such a tough nut to crack? Qin Chuan chuckled and said to Zhou Sisi, however, you don't have to be too worried. Wang Qi is powerful, but I can deal with him. In terms of battle formations, Qin Chuan might not be stronger than Wang Qi, but in terms of mental strength, Qin Chuan was confident that he could crush Wang Qi. Grand Duke. The Grand Duke Duke. Grand Duke Duke. Grand Duke Grand Duke. Was, of. In the rumors, the Grand Duke of Black Chess and the Grand Duke of Angel once had a relationship. I don't know whether it's true or not. Qin Chuan looked at Zhou Sisi in surprise. He subconsciously said, there is such a rumor outside? Zhou Sisi nodded and whispered to Qin Chuan, I only dare to tell you this rumor. I don't dare to say it outside. Whether it is Grand Duke Angel or Grand Duke Black, they are not people I can provoke. If they find out, I'm afraid my life will be in danger. Hearing Zhou Sisi's words, Qin Chuan asked curiously, can you be more specific? What is the rumor about? Zhou Sisi explained to Qin Chuan, rumor has it that after Grand Duke Angel's husband, Grand Duke Rose, died, Grand Duke Black pursued Grand Duke Angel. He did not give up after being rejected many times. As for more, I don't know. Qin Chuan couldn't help but reveal a subtle expression when he heard this. From the information Zhou Sisi said, it wasn't difficult to guess that Grand Duke Angel didn't have a good impression of the Grand Duke of Black Chess. He even hated him. Now that he met the Grand Duke of Black Chess's junior, things would become a little lively. Just as Qin Chuan was thinking about this, the doorbell of the room suddenly rang. When he opened the door and saw Sophie standing at the door, his heart moved slightly. He asked, did Grand Duke Angel ask me to see her? Sophie nodded and said to Qin Chuan, it was indeed the Grand Duke who asked me to call you over. If you have nothing else, let's go. Qin Chuan and Sophie were going to see Grand Duke Angel, so Cece took the initiative to leave and return to her room. On the way to Grand Duke Angel's room, Qinchuan asked Sophie curiously, "Do you know why Grand Duke Angel suddenly wants to see me?" Although Qinchuan had already guessed the answer in his heart, he still wanted to confirm it. Hearing Qinchuan's words, Sophie could not help but have a strange expression on her face. She glanced at Qinchuan and replied, "Maybe it's about Grand Duke Black. I think you should have heard some rumors, right?" Qinchuan nodded and said to Sophie, "I have indeed heard some rumors, but I don't think they are true." "No, then they are true." Sophie sighed. The Grand Duke of Black Chess did pursue the Grand Duke of Angel, and it was earlier than the rumors. Hearing Sophie's answer, Qinchuan could not help but have a look of astonishment on his face. He said in surprise, "Earlier?" Sophie nodded and said to Qinchuan, "In fact, Grand Duke Angel, Grand Duke Black, and Grand Duke Rose were friends as early as when Grand Duke Black was just a small commander." Qinchuan could not help but have a strange expression on his face when he heard this. He asked, "Is it so cliché?" Before Sophie could finish speaking, Qinchuan had already guessed that there must have been a love triangle between the three of them that only appeared in a melodramatic romance drama. Sophie glanced at the expression on Qinchuan's face and whispered, "There are surveillance devices in the hotel. If you want the Grand Duke to see your current face, then please continue to remain the same. Don't say that I didn't remind you." Hearing Sophie's kind reminder, Qinchuan's expression suddenly became serious. He coughed lightly and whispered to Sophie, "What's going on?" Sophie continued, "It's just as you think. Grand Duke Angel chose Grand Duke Rose between Grand Duke Black and Grand Duke Rose. Grand Duke Angel thought that Grand Duke Rose was the real hero, and because of this, Grand Duke Black led the army to attack the Void Creature's rear in a fit of anger and made a great contribution." Qinchuan was a little confused. Hearing Sophie's words, the reason why Grand Duke Black led the army to attack the Void Creature's rear so bravely was actually because of emotional trauma? It was actually purely to prove to Grand Duke Angel that he could also be a hero? Hey, even fantasy dramas don't dare to shoot like this. Chapter 904. Sophie looked helplessly at Qinchuan's shocked expression. When she first heard about this, her reaction was even more exaggerated than Qinchuan's. "Don't look at me like that. I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying to you." Sophie sighed and said to Qinchuan, "Grand Duke Black Chess has always had a deep obsession with Grand Duke Angel. This time, you and Wang Qi are in the same group. Something unexpected will definitely happen. So Grand Duke Angel wants to see you in advance to tell you something so that you can be mentally prepared." Qinchuan took a deep breath and asked Sophie, "Is it allowed to kill during the competition?" Hearing Qinchuan's question, Sophie was slightly taken aback and asked, "What do you want to do?" Qinchuan shook his head and responded, "It's not what I want to do, but I want to know what they can do." After hearing Qinchuan's explanation, Sophie understood what Qinchuan meant. She said to Qinchuan, "Every contestant who enters the top 100 is a genius of the same galaxy and a mainstay in the future. Therefore, there will be referees present during the competition. If there is danger, the referees will stop the competition. However, in this way, the party in danger will be eliminated." Qinchuan nodded gently and said to Sophie, "In that case, I know what to do." As the two spoke, they arrived at the door of Grand Duke Angel's room. Sophie said to Qinchuan, "The Grand Duke has instructed that only you are allowed to enter. You can just push the door and go in." Qinchuan glanced at the door, stepped forward, and was about to knock when the door suddenly opened. Zhou Xian walked out and made way for Qinchuan. Qinchuan saw this and nodded gently at Zhou Xian, then stepped in. When Qinchuan walked into the room and came to the living room, Angel was sitting on the sofa reading a book. It was worth mentioning that Angel was reading a paper book. This kind of book was definitely an antique in this era. It would not be a problem to sell a book for hundreds of thousands. Sit down. Angel did not raise her head. She pointed casually and motioned for Qinchuan to sit down. Qinchuan walked to the sofa and sat down. He poured himself a cup of tea and then asked Angel, "Grand Duke, I wonder why you called me here?" "I asked Sophie to tell you some things on the way here." Angel raised her eyes and glanced at Qinchuan. "This time, you have to win against the Grand Duke of Black Chess's Jr., Wang Qi. You have to win, and you have to win cleanly." When Qinchuan heard this, he chuckled and said to Angel, "Even if the Grand Duke didn't say anything, I would have done the same. My goal is to be in the top 3. No matter what, I will defeat Wang Qi." Angel shook her head and said to Qinchuan, "You're wrong. You don't know the Grand Duke of Black Chess, nor do you know Wang Qi. Do you think that you can definitely win against Wang Qi just because you're a grade 5 Talisman Array Master? Oh, I almost forgot to congratulate you. Now that you're a grade 5 Talisman Array Master, you're on equal footing with me. You don't have to be so restrained when you see me in the future." Qinchuan smiled. His attitude toward Angel did not change. He first thanked Angel, then asked curiously, "Grand Duke, do you mean that I might lose to Wang Qi?" "Wang Qi is nothing to worry about. What I'm really worried about is the Grand Duke of Black Chess." Angel pursed her lips. "He's a person who will do anything to achieve his goals. This time, you're up against Wang Qi. In order to attack me, he will definitely spare no effort to help Wang Qi win this match." Qinchuan was puzzled when he heard that. He asked, "How is he going to help Wang Qi?" The match was one-on-one. The Grand Duke of Black Chess couldn't possibly replace Wang Qi, right? "I don't know exactly how the Grand Duke of Black Chess will operate, but you can rest assured that what I said will definitely happen. So, you have to be careful." Angel looked at Qinchuan and said in a rather serious tone, "If you die, I won't take care of Lu Zi and the others for you for the rest of your life." Hearing Angel mention Lu Zi, Qinchuan's expression suddenly became subtle. He took a deep look at Angel and replied, "I understand. I'll be careful." Anders Group, top floor. The Grand Duke of Black Chess, who was dressed in a black robe, sat on a chair. His face was expressionless and his eyes were indifferent. Behind him stood a tall young man. The young man's face was filled with cold arrogance and his aura was extremely powerful. He was the Grand Duke of Black Chess' most favored junior, Wang Qi. "Grand Duke, how long do we have to wait?" Wang Qi glanced at the time. "We've been waiting here for 20 minutes. The president of the Anders Group is really awe-inspiring. Even Odyssey the Great wouldn't dare to make you wait for so long." Hearing Wang Qi's words, the Grand Duke of Black Chess said indifferently, "Quiet." Wang Qi didn't dare to say anything else, but the expression on his face gradually became a little impatient. He was already in a bad mood because he was going to meet Qinchuan in the first round of the competition. Now, he had to wait here for the annoying president of the Anders Group. His mood was exploding with irritation. Buzz. The door of the room slowly opened. A tall figure shrouded in a black robe slowly walked into the office and sat down in front of the Grand Duke of Black Chess. He chuckled and said to the Grand Duke of Black Chess, "I'm really sorry for making you wait." Wang Qi looked at the black-robed man sitting in front of him and frowned. "You're the president of the Anders Group? Why are you hiding your true face?" The black-robed man smiled and said to Wang Qi, "Because I'm too ugly. I'll scare people." Wang Qi wanted to say something, but the Grand Duke of Black Chess raised his hand to signal him to be quiet. Wang Qi could only shut up. The Grand Duke of Black Chess looked at the black-robed man and asked, "Have you brought the thing I want?" The black-robed man looked at the Grand Duke of Black Chess and asked with a smile, "We're partners. Of course, I'll bring you the thing you want." As he spoke, the black-robed man took out a small transparent bottle from his storage ring. The bottle contained a drop of dark purple liquid. He placed the bottle in front of the Grand Duke of Black Chess and said, This is what you want, the source of spirit. The source of spirit? Wang Qi couldn't help but exclaim. His face was filled with shock. Spirit source was a rare treasure that could increase a person's spirit power in a short period of time. It had always appeared in high-class auctions. Every time it appeared, it would cause a commotion and be sold for a sky-high price. He didn't expect the Grand Duke of Black Chess to ask for the source of spirit from this mysterious president. Moreover, the other party actually took it out. Yes, the source of spirit. The black-robed man smiled. With this, your mental strength can increase dramatically in a short period of time. Although it can only last for a short period of time, it's enough for you to defeat all your opponents. Chapter 905. Me. Wang Qi was slightly taken aback. Could it be that the Grand Duke of Black Chess wanted this drop of source of spirit for him? That's right, it's you. The Grand Duke of Black Chess picked up the bottle containing the source of spirit and glanced at it. Then, he handed it to Wang Qi, who was standing at the side. Seeing the Grand Duke of Black Chess's action, Wang Qi was slightly taken aback. Then, he reached out and took the bottle. With this source of spirit, I have the confidence to defeat whoever I meet in the finals. Wang Qi looked at the bottle in his hand excitedly, as if he could already see the championship trophy waving at him. No, this thing can't be used in the finals. The Grand Duke of Black Chess shook his head and said to Wang Qi, "Take it when you face Qin Chuan. You must defeat Qin Chuan." Hearing the Grand Duke of Black Chess's words, Wang Qi was slightly taken aback. Then, he responded, "Although Qin Chuan is a level 5 talisman formation master, Qin Chuan's combat power isn't very strong. Using the source of spirit to deal with Qin Chuan is a complete waste of talent." Did I not express myself clearly enough? The Grand Duke of Black Chess raised his eyes and looked at Wang Qi indifferently. He asked, "Do I need to repeat myself?" Seeing the Grand Duke of Black Chess's anger, Wang Qi's expression changed slightly. He immediately responded, "I understand. I will follow your arrangements." Wang Qi knew very well that his current status was all thanks to the Grand Duke of Black Chess. If the Grand Duke of Black Chess were to hate him one day, his status would definitely plummet. This was definitely not something he wanted to see, and he would definitely not let this happen. Actually, Wang Qi is right. Using the source of spirit to deal with Qin Chuan is indeed a waste of talent. The black-robed man chuckled. In my opinion, although Qin Chuan has the halo of a level 5 talisman formation master, he may not be a match for Wang Qi. What I want is absolute certainty, not uncertainty. The Grand Duke of Black Chess replied, "This battle must be won. All right, as long as you are happy." The black-robed man spread his hands and said to the Grand Duke of Black Chess, "I've done what I promised you. Don't forget the agreement between us. If you go back on your words, you should know the consequences." Hearing the threat in the black-robed man's words, the Grand Duke of Black Chess snorted and said, "I know what to do. I don't need you to remind me." As he spoke, the Grand Duke of Black Chess stood up and walked outside. Wang Qi immediately followed him. The black-robed man remained where he was, watching the Grand Duke of Black Chess and Wang Qi leave. What a boring guy. Is it really worth it to pay such a huge price to win some so-called dignity in front of a woman? Perhaps this was the magic of love? Anyway, I don't really like it. The black-robed man muttered to himself. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and looked down at the golden beetle in his palm. "Andre, do you think I'm right?" The anticipated competition of the Talisman Array Master Exchange finally began as scheduled. The battle between Qin Chuan and Wang Qi was scheduled for the 4th day. Qin Chuan didn't have to come to watch the competition during the first 3 days, but Qin Chuan still came because Shu Tao's competition was today. Shu Tao was a young man with a slightly fat figure. He seemed simple and honest, yet he was actually astute, and he was rather striking amongst all the participants. This fellow has the backing of the imperial family. No matter where he goes, he'll become the center of attention. Supposedly, the imperial family intended to marry a princess to him, but it seems to have been refused by him. Zhuo looked at Shu Tao and said to Qin Chuan, "Don't be fooled by his simple and honest smile. In fact, he's more astute than anyone. You must not be deceived by his appearance." "I know." Qin Chuan glanced at Shu Tao before looking at another person, a woman with an ordinary appearance. She was Shu Tao's opponent, number 68, Wu Sui. Wu Sui was the 100th participant to advance into the competition. Supposedly, she was able to enter entirely because she was rich, and she'd used sufficient money to buy sufficient votes. Compared to the renowned Shu Tao, Wu Sui was completely unknown, and no one looked favorably upon her. However, it was precisely under such circumstances that Wu Sui had revealed her formidable strength and almost overturned Shu Tao. "Rainbow Radiance!" Wu Sui shouted in a low voice as the talisman brush in her hand moved about. Instantly, a talisman formation was inscribed, and the talisman formation flickered with a dreamlike sheen, causing Shu Tao's gaze to be slightly dazed. "Gale!" Wu Sui waved her brush again, inscribing a wind attribute talisman formation. A hurricane swept across the stage, howling as it rushed towards Shu Tao. Shu Tao, who was still in a daze, was suddenly lifted off the ground and fell outside the stage. At this moment, Shu Tao, who was in the middle of the hurricane, suddenly woke up. He shouted in a low voice, and a powerful spiritual force surged out like a tide, instantly destroying the surrounding hurricane and allowing his body to land firmly on the stage. Then, he immediately inscribed a fire attribute battle array. A giant fire dragon flew towards Wu Sui, and the blazing heat instantly melted Wu Sui's defensive talisman formation, causing her to fall into a sea of fire. Whoosh! A figure quickly rushed into the sea of fire, rescuing the wounded Wu Sui. Then, a loud voice announced, "The winner of this match is Shu Tao. Wu Sui enters the loser bracket." As the referee announced Shu Tao's victory, the audience around the martial stage burst into loud cheers. However, as Shu Tao stood on the martial stage, his complexion was extremely gloomy. He had nearly been defeated by Wu Su. To him, this was simply a great humiliation. Even though he had won in the end, he still felt that he had lost all face. In the audience, Qin Chuan looked at the unconscious Wu Sui in the referee's arms and said to Zhuo, "This Wu Sui has some strength, but unfortunately, the difference in strength between her and Shu Tao is too great. Although her combination of fists is good, it's difficult to win by surprise." Hearing Qin Chuan's evaluation, Zhuo asked curiously, "You think this Wu Sui's strength is good?" Qin Chuan nodded and replied, "She's only at the advanced stage of the nascent soul realm, and she's only a level 4 advanced talisman formation master. It's already very good for her to be able to accomplish this under the circumstances where she has no background or strength. If she's able to obtain the guidance of a good teacher, then she'll definitely transform into a formidable talisman formation master extremely quickly." Zhuo looked at Qin Chuan with some surprise and asked, "You think so highly of her?" Qin Chuan chuckled and said, "Rather than saying that I think highly of her, it's better to say that I think highly of this type of person. I have a friend who is like this. Although her strength is not strong, she has never given up on the pursuit of strength. She has always been getting stronger and has never stopped." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Zhuo face revealed a thoughtful look. Chapter 906. Other than the match between Shu Tao and Wu Xiu that was worth watching, Qin Chuan did not find the other matches interesting. Everyone's performance was mediocre. From the perspective of an ordinary spectator, it was naturally very exciting. However, from the perspective of a professional like Qin Chuan, it was not interesting. Therefore, after the first day of the competition ended, Qin Chuan did not come to the venue again. Instead, he quietly studied talisman arrays in his room. In Master Tianin's notes, there were a total of 2 level, 5 talisman arrays. The first one was the Tianin array, and the second one was called the sound sealing array. The sound sealing array was a talisman array that used sound as a shackle to seal the opponent. It was also an original creation of Master Tianin. However, it was much more difficult than the Tianin array, and it was also more effective. This was the second level, 5 talisman array that Qin Chuan focused on. If he could learn this talisman array before the competition, his strength would be greatly enhanced. Although the sound sealing array did not have the ability to attack, it could perfectly restrict the opponent. As long as the opponent fell into the sound sealing array, they would lose their freedom. At that time, it would be very easy for Qin Chuan to win the competition. With the beautiful idea of using the sound sealing array to directly kill the opponent, Qin Chuan immersed himself in the study of talisman arrays. However, Qin Chuan clearly underestimated the difficulty of the sound sealing array. On the 4th day of the competition, he still had not learned the sound sealing array. He had to stop studying talisman arrays and prepare for the competition. The competition between Qin Chuan and Wang Qi could be said to be the focus of attention. It was not only because Qin Chuan was the only level 5 talisman array master among the contestants, but also because each of them represented the will of a Grand Duke. Grand Duke Angel, who had been staying in the Rose Hotel since he came to Sina City, also came to the competition venue on this day. He wanted to watch the competition between Qin Chuan and Wang Qi. Before the competition started, Grand Duke Black came to the door and sat beside Grand Duke Angel. "Angel, how long has it been since we last met?" Black looked at Angel and sighed. "The last time we met was probably 10 years ago." Upon hearing Black's words, Angel smiled slightly and responded, "It's true that we haven't met for some years, but it doesn't matter whether we meet or not." Black looked at Angel with a complicated expression. He whispered, "Maybe in your heart, I'm just an ordinary friend or even a stranger. But in my heart, you're still that little girl from back then. You're innocent and beautiful." "All right, Black, I don't want to hear you talk to me about this." Angel looked at the black chess piece. "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. I don't like it." Facing Angel's straightforwardness, Black pursed his lips and asked, "Between Qin Chuan and Wang Qi, who do you think is more likely to win?" Upon hearing Black's words, Angel said faintly, "Both Qin Chuan and Wang Qi are rare geniuses in our sane galaxy. I won't be surprised no matter who wins. In my opinion, there's nothing to say about this kind of thing." Black did not expect Angel to answer him like this. He glanced at Angel subtly and asked, "When did you become so indifferent to fame and fortune? Don't you have any desire to win? If you came to see me just to talk about this, then please leave. We're already so old. I don't want any scandals." Angel had lost interest in continuing the conversation with Black. She did not like Black because he was too purposeful no matter what he did. Whether it was in the past or now, Black's character had not changed at all. "Well, I'll say my purpose directly. I want to make a bet with you." Black took a deep look at Angel. "Let's bet on the winner between Qin Chuan and Wang Qi." "I'm not interested," Angel replied. "I don't like this kind of activity." Seeing that Angel was not interested, Black could not help but say, "As long as you're willing to bet with me, then I'll tell you something big that's about to happen." Angel shook her head again and pointed to the door. "Please leave." Seeing that Angel was still indifferent, Black finally could not hold back his irritation and said with some agitation, "I can leave now, but when the entire sane galaxy is facing destruction, I hope you won't regret your decision now." Hearing Black's angry roar, Angel's expression changed subtly. She sneered and said, "The sane galaxy is facing destruction? Do you think I'll believe that?" Seeing that Angel did not believe him at all, Black immediately wanted to tell her everything. However, at this moment, He seemed to think of something in his heart and swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Phew, so many years have passed. I can remain calm and rational in the face of any situation, but I can't help but lose control of my emotions when facing you. I almost told you that thing just now. Fortunately, I came to my senses in time. Angel, if you want to know that thing, I can tell you, but you have to bet with me. I can swear on my life that I'm not lying to you. Seeing that Black had calmed down, Angel knew that it was impossible for her to trick him into telling her that thing. Although it was a bit alarmist to say that the sane galaxy was facing destruction, based on her understanding of Black, he would not lie about such a thing. So, maybe there really was a crisis shrouding the sane galaxy without them knowing. How do you want to bet? In the end, Angel decided to bet with Black. She believed that Qin could win this game. Seeing that Angel finally agreed, a smile appeared on Black's face. He said to Angel, "Let's bet. If Qin wins, I'll tell you about that thing. If Wang Qi wins, you have to marry me and be my woman. We'll announce our marriage to the whole universe." Angel had already guessed that Black would propose such a bet. She pursed her lips and replied after a moment of thought, "Okay, we'll bet. Remember what you said. Please also remember what you promised me." Black looked at Angel with blazing eyes. "I've been waiting for this day for too many years." Now that the bet was made, Black left with satisfaction, leaving Angel full of doubts. She looked in the direction of the arena with a thoughtful look on her face. She felt that something was not quite right. Something that can destroy the entire sane galaxy. What is it? Chapter 907. On the stage, Qin and Wang Qi were both making their final preparations. Qin was relatively calm, but Wang Qi's gaze towards Qin was filled with unwillingness. Qin was extremely puzzled by Wang Qi's gaze. They had only met for the first time, so why did Wang Qi have such a huge grudge against him? Could it be because of the emotional entanglement between Duke Black Chess and Duke Angel? That shouldn't be the case, right? Obviously, Qin didn't know that Wang Qi had such a grudge against him because of the matter regarding his source of spirit. In Wang Qi's opinion, using his source of spirit in a match against him was a complete waste. If he could save his source of spirit for a crucial match, then Wang Qi had absolute confidence that he could win the championship of this talisman array master exchange. "I'll definitely teach you a lesson and make you, a rank 5 talisman array master, lose all face." At this moment, the referee had already walked onto the stage and stood between Qin and Wang Qi. He began to announce some of the rules of the match. Aside from talisman brushes and array discs, the two of them weren't allowed to use anything else. However, things like medicines could be used in advance, so it wasn't considered a violation of the rules. Any participant that left the range of the stage would be considered to have admitted defeat. The referee can intervene when a participant's life is in danger. Once the referee intervenes, the participant that was helped will be declared the loser. If you have any questions, you can appeal to the organizer afterwards. These are the rules. Do you have any other questions? The referee solemnly looked at Qin before shifting his gaze towards Wang Qi. After confirming that the two of them didn't have any questions, he said in a clear voice, "The match will officially begin in 3 minutes. Participants, please make your final preparations." As he spoke, the referee placed an hourglass on the stage. Once the last grain of sand fell into the hourglass, the match would begin. Qin looked at the small and exquisite hourglass on the stage and could not help but feel a little emotional. He thought back to his time in the exiled lands, when he had participated in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament as a representative of the Black Moon Combat Academy. At that time, he was still very young and had not experienced many things. All he wanted to do was to do his best to win every match and not disappoint those who had high hopes for him. At that time, he had participated in the tournament for the sake of those expectations and trust. Now, he was once again standing on the stage to fight for himself. If he wanted to survive in this dangerous world, he had to do everything he could to make himself stronger. When the last grain of sand fell, Qin Chuan and Wang Qi moved almost at the same time. Qin Chuan did not use the talisman brush and directly formed an array in the void. He wanted to seize the first opportunity, but what surprised him was that Wang Qi made the same choice as him. Both of them were forming an array in the void, and Wang Qi was even faster. Buzz! When a blue talisman array appeared in front of Wang Qi, Qin Chuan had just finished inscribing the 10-directional thunder prison. Streaks of lightning flashed in the air above the stage, releasing an extremely violent aura. Whoosh! An invisible stream of air gushed out from the talisman array in front of Qin Chuan. The moment it approached Qin Chuan, it suddenly turned into a sharp hurricane, as if it wanted to tear Qin Chuan to pieces. At this moment, a blue thunder shield appeared in front of Qin Chuan, blocking the tearing of the hurricane for Qin Chuan. However, under the tearing of the hurricane, the thunder shield only lasted for 2 breaths of time before it shattered. The moment the thunder shield shattered, a new thunder shield was born. At the same time, the all-directional thunder prison also launched an attack on Wang Qi. Countless bolts of lightning fell from the sky, completely enveloping Wang Qi. However, Wang Qi smiled confidently in the face of this situation. He didn't dodge or evade. He allowed the lightning to strike him, but it was blocked by the invisible wind wall around him. It turned out that not long ago, Wang Qi had inscribed the second talisman array, the flowing wind shield, which had a super strong defensive effect. Wow! The audience suddenly burst into exclamations. No one in the audience expected that the battle between Qin Chuan and Wang Qi would not have any probing. The beginning of the battle was a fierce attack that left no room for maneuver. The excitement of the battle far exceeded everyone's expectations. Rumble! The 10-directional thunder prison increased the intensity of its attack. The thunderbolts fell like raindrops, completely covering Wang Qi. However, the hurricane did not stop tearing at the thunder shield. Obviously, Qin Chuan's attack did not have any effect on Wang Qi. Walala! All of a sudden, the sound of a surging tide could be heard in the arena. The sound became more and more intense, and at the same time, it started to rain heavily on the arena. The audience subconsciously raised their heads to look at the sky. When they saw the vast ocean floating in the air, everyone's faces were filled with horror. Vast ocean talisman array. With Qin Chuan's angry roar, the vast ocean poured down from the sky and engulfed the entire arena in an instant. Not only did it isolate Qin Chuan from the hurricane, but it also sent the thunderbolts to every corner of the arena. This was a new combination battle array that Qin Chuan had carefully researched. With the vast ocean talisman array as the carrier, it maximized the destructive power and coverage of the thunderbolts. Whether it was in a one-on-one or a one-on-one battle, it had extremely terrifying lethality. And this was not all. 5 elements rotation talisman array combination. Qin Chuan's face was flushed and his eyes were bloodshot. At this time, he had put all his eggs in one basket. Controlling 4 talisman arrays at the same time was his limit. If he continued, his brain would definitely collapse. If this attack could not defeat Wang Qi, he would lose for sure. Therefore, he had to do it in one go. Sharp metal talisman array. Metal begets water. With the support of the 5 elements rotation talisman array, the power of the vast ocean talisman array was even stronger than before. It set off monstrous waves in the arena and erupted with earth-shattering momentum. In the face of Qin Chuan's continuous attacks, Wang Qi had completely lost his ability to respond. His eyes were filled with panic as he looked around at the water currents and the power of thunder all around him. His boundless mental strength could do nothing but maintain the flowing wind shield. How can this be? How can he be so terrifying? Wang Qi's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He wanted to counterattack, but when he used his mental strength to engrave the talisman array, the flowing wind shield immediately showed a flaw and was instantly destroyed by the vast ocean. Walala! The seawater on the arena gradually dissipated, the thunder stopped, and the golden light faded. In an instant the arena became clean. Except for Qinchuan, who was standing, and Wang Qi, whose face was covered in blood, there was nothing left. In the audience, everyone fell into a long silence as they looked at the two people in the ring. They didn't know how to describe their feelings at this time. If they had to vent their feelings, they would have to cheer excitedly to vent it thoroughly. Boom! Suddenly, there was a burst of enthusiastic cheers in the arena. The cheers turned into a sound wave that rushed in all directions. Everyone was amazed by Qinchuan's strong performance. Everyone was convinced by Qinchuan's strength. Number 109 Qinchuan won. Chapter 908. This was a match that was extremely fast-paced and brilliant to the point it caused everyone to slap the table and cry out in praise. All the spectators were subdued by Qinchuan's domineering display. If it was said that Qinchuan was famous earlier because he'd broken through to become a level 5 talisman formation master, then Qinchuan was famous now because of his strength. Under such a tight and powerful attack, even the favorites for the championship, Shu Tao and Bi Lang, might not be able to withstand it, let alone Wang Qi. Qinchuan slowly walked down the stage amidst the enthusiastic cheers of the spectators, while Wang Qi was carried down by the medical staff. After leaving the stage, Qinchuan returned to his lounge and bumped into Sophie. Qinchuan, the Grand Duke has an important matter to discuss with you. When Sophie saw Qinchuan, she immediately said to Qinchuan, "The Grand Duke requests that you drop everything you're doing and come over immediately." Seeing how serious Sophie's attitude was, Qinchuan immediately nodded and said, "I understand. Let's go over now." Qinchuan and Sophie arrived at the box where Angel was. When he saw Angel, Qinchuan couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He had clearly won the match, so why was Angel's expression so foul? "Grand Duke, do you have something urgent to discuss with me?" Qinchuan walked in and directly asked Angel. He was very curious as to what had caused Angel's expression to be so foul. Angel took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart. She said to Qinchuan, "Black broke his promise." Qinchuan was slightly stunned when he heard this. He asked in confusion, "What do you mean? Broke his promise?" Angel explained to Qinchuan in a low voice, "The black chess piece came to me first and made a bet with me on the outcome of your match. He lost, but he didn't intend to fulfill his promise and disappeared." After hearing Angel's explanation, Qinchuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Could it be that Angel's expression was so foul because of this? That wasn't necessary, was it? Seeing Qinchuan's disapproving expression, Angel pursed her lips and said to Qinchuan, "I didn't explain clearly enough. This bet is not only related to me and Black, but also the survival of the entire sane star system." After listening to Angel's detailed explanation of the bet, the expression on Qinchuan's face became serious. He did not expect such a huge matter to be involved in this bet. Moreover, from the fact that the black chess piece disappeared after losing the bet, it was very likely that this matter was true. The black chess piece must be confident of winning, so he used this matter to bet with you. He didn't expect that the king chess piece would lose to me, so he chose to disappear when he realized how great the impact of this matter would be if it was leaked out. Qinchuan frowned and analyzed. Even if we send a warning to Odysseus with this one-sided story, it won't have much effect. In the end, we have to find Black and force him to tell us about that matter. After hearing Qinchuan's analysis, Angel nodded and said to Qinchuan, "What you said makes sense, but where are we going to find Black now?" "Wang Qi." Qinchuan said almost without thinking, as Black's favorite junior, Wang Qi must know something about Black's whereabouts. Let's go find Wang Qi now and force him to tell us Black's whereabouts, but I just defeated him. With his pride, I'm afraid he'll never be willing to tell us Black's whereabouts. No matter what, we have to make Wang Qi talk. Angel stood up and said to Qinchuan, let's go find Wang Qi immediately. Damn it, how could Wang Qi lose? Didn't he take the source of spirit? But I saw him take the source of spirit with my own eyes. In the darkness, Black's face was full of anger. He did not expect such an accident to happen when he was supposed to win. Fortunately, he had left the arena in time. If he had been stopped by Angel, he would have ended up in a very bad situation. However, when he thought that he had already told Angel something that he shouldn't have said, Black's mood became extremely irritable. Once Angel spoke about this matter, perhaps their plan would fail, and he would definitely be killed by then. No, I have to find a way to remedy this. Black's eyes flickered. In the end, he decided to confess to those people and launch the plan in advance before the matter was exposed. In the infirmary, Wang Qi, who had just woken up, didn't expect that the first person he saw would be Qinchuan. Qinchuan, are you here to show off your victory to me? Wang Qi looked at Qinchuan with extreme anger. Qinchuan had won the game, and now he was standing in front of him to show off. This was simply too much. He couldn't bear it. Seeing Wang Qi so angry, Qinchuan immediately explained to Wang Qi, I'm not here to show off to you. I want to ask you something. Where is the Grand Duke of Black? When he heard Qinchuan mention the Grand Duke of Black, Wang Qi's mood immediately became more agitated. He had taken such a precious source of spirit, but he didn't get the victory that the Grand Duke of Black wanted. At that time, the Grand Duke of Black would not easily forgive him. If Qinchuan saw the Grand Duke of Black now, it would definitely irritate the Grand Duke of Black. Then, he would really die. Don't even think about it. Wang Qi roared, if you want to kill me now. Why do you have to use this method? Looking at the irritable Wang Qi, Qinchuan was really helpless. He knew that his appearance would definitely irritate Wang Qi and make him lose his mind. Look, there was no one else in Wang Qi's eyes except for him. He completely ignored Angel, who was standing on the other side. Wang Qi. Angel finally couldn't stand it anymore. She called Wang Qi and said to him, it's not Qinchuan who wants to see the Grand Duke of Black, but I want to see him. When Wang Qi heard Angel's words, he subconsciously turned his head and looked at Angel. When he saw who Angel was, he was slightly stunned and said with some surprise, Grand Duke Angel? Are you the one who wants to see the Grand Duke of Black? Angel nodded and said to Wang Qi, I want to see the Grand Duke of Black because I have something very important to discuss with him, but I can't contact him. Do you know where he might appear? When Wang Qi heard this, he couldn't help but show a look of embarrassment on his face. He shook his head and said, I don't know where the Grand Duke of Black went. Why are you looking for him? Angel took a deep look at Wang Qi and replied, after all these years I've thought it through. I'm going to marry him. If you can't find him, then this matter is over. Hearing Angel's words, Qinchuan couldn't help but be stunned. He really didn't expect Angel to say such words in order to get the whereabouts of the Grand Duke of Black. She was simply putting in a lot of effort. Chapter 909. You want to marry Grand Duke Black? Wang Qi found it hard to believe his ears. He actually heard Grand Duchess Angel say that she wanted to marry the Grand Duke of Black Chess. Was this a dream? Looking at the shocked expression on Wang Qi's face, Angel nodded and replied, That's what I originally thought, but I'm not sure if it's just a spur of the moment. If I can't see Black immediately to confirm my feelings, I might change my mind soon. If you see Black then, remember not to tell him about this, lest he comes to bother me again. Hearing Angel's words, Wang Qi's expression suddenly became a little interesting. As a close person to the Grand Duke of Black Chess, He knew better than anyone how obsessed the Grand Duke of Black Chess was with Grand Duke Angel. If the Grand Duke of Black Chess knew what happened today, he would definitely push all the responsibility to Wang Qi. At that time, Wang Qi would probably be crushed into ashes by the Grand Duke of Black Chess. He had to do something for this trip. Wang Qi said to Angel nervously and uneasily, "Grand Duke Angel, I really don't know where Grand Duke Black is now, but maybe there's someone who can find Grand Duke Black." Hearing Wang Qi's words, Angel asked faintly, "Who?" Wang Qi replied, "The president of the Anders Group, a guy covered in a black robe. As for his name, I don't know." After getting the answer they wanted, Qinchuan and Angel left the infirmary. Angel looked at Qinchuan's grave expression and asked, "Do you know something? Why do you look so pale?" Qinchuan looked up at Angel and said in a deep voice, "This matter might be related to Zerg." "Zerg?" Angel was slightly stunned and asked uncertainly, "That Holy Clan? Zerg who calls himself Holy Clan?" Nodding his head, Qinchuan said to Angel, "There's something wrong with this and Anders conglomerate, and it's huge." Qinchuan clearly remembered that when he had just arrived in Sinai City, he had encountered the terrifying black-robed man at the entrance of the NC group because of the little armored dragon. Initially, Qinchuan did not link the two incidents together, but when Wang Qi mentioned the NC group, Qinchuan realized that there must be a connection between the two. Angel looked at Qinchuan in confusion and asked, "How do you know this has something to do with Zerg? What exactly do you know?" Qinchuan organized his thoughts and said to Angel, "I once met a mysterious man in a black robe at the entrance of the NC group. I can confirm that he is Zerg." Wang Qi also said that the CEO of the NC group is also a man in a black robe. Hearing Qinchuan's explanation, Angel's face suddenly became serious and asked again, "This is no small matter. Can you take responsibility for your words?" "I'm sure." Qinchuan nodded firmly. "This matter must have something to do with Zerg." Angel immediately said, "Let's go." Qinchuan asked, "Where are we going? The NC group?" Angel shook her head. "No, we're going to see the Emperor." Under Angel's lead, the two of them flew all the way to the Imperial City and arrived in front of Emperor Odyssey without any obstructions. Earlier, during the opening ceremony of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange, Qinchuan had seen the clone of Grand Emperor Odyssey, and it was dignified and domineering. Now, when he faced Grand Emperor Odyssey's main body, Qinchuan was unable to sense any pressure from Grand Emperor Odyssey, and it was like he was facing an ordinary middle-aged man. "Angel, why are you in such a hurry to see me? Is there something important?" Odyssey looked calmly at Qinchuan and Angel, his gaze resting on Angel. Angel looked at Odyssey and said in a deep voice, "Emperor, it's very likely that Black is colluding with Zerg. They want to harm our sane star system. We must find them and stop their plan." Odyssey could not help but frown slightly when he heard Angel's words. He asked, "Do you have any evidence?" "Emperor, I don't have any evidence, but I'm sure it's true." Angel said to Odyssey, "It's better to believe it than not. It'll be too late for us to stop them once they start their plan." Facing the anxious Angel, Odysseus fell into a long silence. When Angel couldn't help but want to persuade him again, he waved his hand and said to Angel, "Before I have conclusive evidence, I can't do anything to the black chess piece. I'll send someone to find the black chess piece and summon him here to confront you." Angel could not help but be stunned when she heard Odyssey's answer. She looked at Odyssey in astonishment. She had never expected Odyssey to say such a thing. "Emperor, what if Black casually finds a reason to refuse your summons?" Angel asked. "Can you take action directly if Black refuses your summons?" Although Angel did not understand why Odyssey would make such a decision, she still wanted to try and persuade Odyssey. "I'll naturally make the corresponding arrangements when the time comes." "All right, Angel, go back and watch the competition quietly. I'll send someone to investigate this matter clearly." Odyssey seemed to have lost interest in continuing to communicate with Angel, and he actually wanted to drive her away. Angel felt like she was going crazy in the face of Odyssey's almost indifferent attitude. She really could not understand why Odyssey, the great emperor of the sane star system, was so indifferent to something that could destroy the sane star system. This was not the style of Odyssey in her impression of him. However, Odyssey was not willing to give Angel a chance to persuade him again. He directly ordered his servants to send Angel and Qinchuan out of the hall. Angel stood outside the hall with a gloomy face. If she had known that this would be the result of coming to find Odyssey, she would not have come at all. Grand Duke, let's leave here first. Qinchuan looked at Angel, who was in an extremely bad mood. His expression was also extremely ugly, but it was not because of their encounter just now, but because he had made a more important discovery. I don't understand why the Emperor would make such a stupid decision. After leaving the Imperial City, Angel was finally able to speak her mind without fear. Qinchuan took a deep look at Angel and said, "The Emperor would definitely not make a stupid decision, but what if the person we saw just now was not the Emperor?" Hearing Qinchuan's words, Angel could not help but show a look of shock on her face. She cried out involuntarily, "That person was not the Emperor? How is that possible?" Chapter 9-10. Qinchuan looked at Angel with a serious expression and said, "I know that what I'm saying sounds crazy, but I'm not saying this for no reason." Angel nodded, then she looked at Qinchuan. Angel looked at Qinchuan with a sharp gaze and said in a deep voice, "Tell me what you found. I hope you know what you're talking about. I only want to hear the truth at this time. Any lie can lead to very bad things. You must know what I mean." Qinchuan took a deep breath and said to Angel, "I've seen a person before. He was possessed by Zerg. On the surface, it was still him, but in fact, his soul had been imprisoned. The one who really controlled this body was Zerg." Angel immediately asked, "If it was a possession, I would have found some clues just now." Qinchuan pursed his lips and explained, "As I said, this is a special kind of possession. It doesn't erase the soul of the possessed, but imprisons the possessed so that the possessed can continue to live. If you perceive this kind of possession from the outside, you won't be able to detect anything wrong." Angel was puzzled and asked again, "Since it can't be perceived from the outside, how do you know about this?" Qinchuan looked at Angel with some difficulty and said, "This is my secret. I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that I'm telling the truth. Moreover, we've already alerted the other party. It's very likely that they'll carry out their plan in advance or attack the two of us. So, we have to think of a countermeasure." The reason why Qinchuan knew that Odyssey the Great was not the real Odyssey the Great was because the little armored dragon had sensed the existence of another sacred king in Odyssey the Great's body. This time, because of the protection of the runic sword, the other party was not able to discover the little armored dragon. Otherwise, they might not have been able to leave the Imperial City so easily. The existence of the little armored dragon was a secret to Qinchuan. He could not tell Angel. If Angel did not want to believe him, there was nothing he could do. Phew, what a depressing day. Angel took a deep breath and let out a long sigh of relief. The series of events that happened today was too much of a shock to her. She had to calm down and think about what she should do next. "Qinchuan, what do you think we should do?" Angel looked at Qinchuan. Now, Qinchuan was the only one she could discuss with. At the same time, she was glad that she had Qinchuan by her side. If she had to face all these alone, she would feel great pressure even if she was a powerful cultivator at the Dongshu stage. Faced with Angel's question, Qinchuan pondered for a moment. Then, he said to Angel, "What we need to do now is to find the black chess piece and force them to tell us what their plan is. We don't know anything now. Even if we want to do something, we don't know how to do it." Angel nodded. Then, she said to Qinchuan, What you said makes sense. But if the CEO of the Anders Corporation is really the Zerg you mentioned, wouldn't it be too reckless for us to just go there? Since the other party was confident that they could destroy the sane star system, it meant that they had an extremely powerful force in their hands. Now that they had been exposed, they might fall into the other party's trap if they went to the Anders Corporation. Qin Chuan replied helplessly, I've also considered this problem, but we don't have a better choice now. We can only start with the Anders Corporation. Then let's go. Engel looked at Qin Chuan with a subtle gaze and said, You're still young. Your future is limitless. I'll allow you to be a deserter this time. If you encounter any danger, don't talk about loyalty. I'll cover you. Hearing Angel's words, Qin Chuan gave her a deep look and said, Then I won't say anything. When the time comes, if you die, I will definitely avenge you. Bastard, what did you just say? You actually leaked out our plan. The black-robed man looked at the black chess piece in front of him angrily. He almost couldn't help but tear the black chess piece into pieces. Facing the furious black-robed man, the black chess piece knew that he was in the wrong, so he didn't try to defend himself. He said to the black-robed man, I know I'm in the wrong, but I've already tried my best to make up for it. Even if you kill me now, you won't be able to change this fact. Let's think about how to salvage everything. Hearing Black's words, the black-robed man snorted coldly. Just as he was about to say something, his optical supercomputer suddenly received a message. When he saw the content of the message, he said to Black in a deep voice, Angela has found Odysseus and wants him to take action. If I hadn't made arrangements beforehand, the plan might have really failed. The black chess piece was shocked and asked, They found the Emperor? Then aren't I in danger? Danger? Hee, the one in danger isn't you, it's Odysseus. The black-robed man sneered. I originally wanted to wait until Odysseus was dealt with before executing the plan. Now it seems like I have to bring it forward. The black chess piece couldn't help but exclaim, You've made a move on the Emperor? Emperor? The ruler of a small galaxy, a mere intermediate Dongshu realm cultivator, is qualified to call himself an emperor? The black-robed man looked disdainful. The emperor you speak of is now curled up in a corner of his body, trembling. He could be swallowed and assimilated at any time. The black chess piece couldn't believe it. If the black-robed man hadn't said it himself, he would never have thought that the Emperor Odysseus he had revered for so long had become a prisoner. His life could even be in danger at any time. Seeing the shock on the black chess piece's face, the black-robed man said indifferently, Without Odysseus' support, the sane galaxy is a piece of fat meat that can be swallowed at any time. Since our plan has been leaked, we'll bring it forward. The result will be the same anyway, so it doesn't matter. But, the black-robed man suddenly changed the topic and coldly glared at the black chess piece. If you dare to do anything to ruin my plans, don't blame me for being impolite. In the face of the black-robed man's threat, the black chess piece's face couldn't help but become extremely unsightly. Since the other party could control Odysseus, they could naturally easily control his life and death. This made the black chess piece regret what he had done before. I know. I'll be careful what I say in the future. After getting the black chess piece's promise, the black-robed man snorted coldly and said to the black chess piece, There's nothing for you to do here. You can go back. Our plan will begin in a day. Chapter 9:11. The competition was still going on, but Qin Chuan and Angel were no longer paying attention to it. They were thinking about how to find out about the other party's plan. This is the Anders Corporation? Angel looked at the skyscraper in front of her and frowned slightly. She said to Qin Chuan, Although I haven't been to Sane City for many years, I don't remember such a corporation existing in Sane City. This Anders Corporation seems to have appeared out of nowhere without any warning. Although Sane City was huge, There were very few corporations that could occupy an entire skyscraper in such a prime location. There was no reason for Angel not to have heard of the Anders Corporation, unless this corporation had just been established not long ago. Qin said to Angel, "I've investigated this Anders Corporation before, but there are very few records about this corporation on the internet. From the various sources, the Anders Corporation should have been established 3 years ago." 3 years? There's no way they've only been hiding in Sane City for 3 years. They would need at least 30 years to obtain the right to use such a skyscraper in Sane City, and they would need the help of someone with a powerful background. Angel said in a deep voice, "Black must have helped them obtain the right to use this skyscraper." Qin couldn't help but frown slightly after hearing Angel's words. He said to Angel, "If obtaining the right to use such a skyscraper in Sane City is a very difficult thing to do, then why would they do it? What effect would this skyscraper have on their plan? Could it be that they just want to establish a corporation to hide their true identity? I think it's easier for them to be exposed this way." Angel fell into deep thought after hearing Qinchuan's question. What Qinchuan said made sense. If Zerg really had a very secretive plan to carry out, there was no need for him to rent such an eye-catching skyscraper, unless this skyscraper played an extremely important role in his plan and was indispensable. Qin glanced at Angel and said to her, "It's time for you to perform." Angel looked up at Qin and asked, "What do you want me to do?" Qin smiled and said to Angel, "I want to investigate how many people work for the Anders Corporation in Sane City. I don't have any connections in Sane City, but this shouldn't be a problem for you, right?" Angel immediately understood Qinchuan's question after hearing Qinchuan's words. She took out her optical computer and sent a message, then said to Qinchuan, "1 minute at most." Buzz. Just as Angel's voice fell, her optical computer received a reply. When she saw the contents of the reply, Angel's eyes lit up. She said to Qinchuan, "I've found it. The NC Group has never recruited any employees. No one knows what the NC Group's main business is. It seems that this skyscraper only has the NC Group's signboard hanging on it. It looks glamorous on the outside, but there's nothing inside." Qin shook his head and said with certainty, "No, there must be something inside, and it's something that they don't want others to know." Qin could not help but think of the dragon's nest in Dragon's Valley. He looked at Angel deeply and said, "If this building is full of Zerg eggs, once these Zerg eggs hatch, perhaps the entire Sane City will become their food." Qin had seen Zerg do this many times before. Every time Zerg wanted to do something, there would be a plague of Zerg. Therefore, he naturally thought of this point. Angel's eyes flashed with shock when she heard Qinchuan's words. If Qinchuan's guess was true, then once all the Zerg eggs in the skyscraper hatched, Sane City would be in danger. Qin saw Angel's face suddenly turn extremely ugly. He comforted her, "This is just a guess. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. We have to find out what's hidden in this building." Angel said to Qin in an extremely firm tone, "I'll go in. If I don't come out in an hour, you have to leave this place. If you can't do it, you have to leave Sane City. Run as far as you can." Qin shook his head and said to Angel, "I know Zerg better than you do. Let me go in with you." "Okay." Angel did not waste any more time and directly said to Qin, "Come with me. I'll walk in front." It was still evening, and the streets were bustling with traffic. Qin and Angel blended into the crowd and rushed towards the NC Group. With their abilities, it was easy for them to reach the NC Group's skyscraper. However, as soon as they entered the building, they stopped. "There's an alarm system." Angel looked at the empty space in front of her with a serious expression. Her sixth sense told her that if they continued to move forward, they would definitely trigger the alarm system Zerg set up here. Qin looked ahead and did not see any obvious alarm system. He could not help but feel confused. At this moment, Angel explained to Qin, "You'll know why I said that when you reach the Dongshu stage. Trust my sixth sense. After hearing Angel's explanation, Qinchuan's heart skipped a beat. He said in a low voice, "If I can't see it, then let's lure it out." Angel looked at Qinchuan curiously and asked, "What are you going to do?" Qinchuan did not answer Angel's question. He slowly closed his eyes, as if he was thinking about something. In fact, he was communicating with the little armored dragon in his mind. He did not know much about Zerg's methods, but the little armored dragon should be able to do it on its own. The result of the communication between Qinchuan and the little armored dragon made Qinchuan happy, because the little armored dragon did find something special in front of them. "It's Zerg eggs." Qinchuan opened his eyes and looked at Angel. "There are countless Zerg eggs that are smaller than dust floating in the air in front of us. Once we touch these Zerg eggs, they will quickly hatch and attach themselves to us, exposing us to Zerg's surveillance." After hearing Qinchuan's words, a look of surprise flashed across Angel's face. She said in a low voice, "In that case, there are indeed some unspeakable secrets in this building." "But," Angel hesitated, "how are we going to get in?" Qinchuan smiled and said to Angel, "Leave this to me." Chapter 9:12. ZZZT. Qinchuan reached out his right hand and released a thumb-sized ball of lightning energy. The ball of lightning energy slowly split into tens of thousands of tiny balls of lightning energy, and then scattered in all directions. "Wait patiently for a while," Qinchuan said to Angel. "In 3 minutes, these eggs will all die under my lightning energy." Hearing Qinchuan's words, Angel pursed her lips slightly and said to Qinchuan, "It's really fortunate that you came. If you didn't come, I really don't know what to do." If Qinchuan did not come with them, Angel would have most likely tried to force her way in, and then Zerg would definitely be alerted. Needless to say, she would have ended up like this. 3 minutes was not a long time, but for Qinchuan and Angel, it was extremely long. It even made them feel a little tormented. After all, they were currently inside the Anders conglomerate, Zerg's territory. If they were discovered, the consequences would not be good. "Grand Duke, why are you so desperate?" Qinchuan was a little curious. With the Grand Duke's strength, even if you leave the sane galaxy and leave your identity as a Grand Duke, you can still live very well. There's no need to risk your life for some unrelated people. Hearing Qinchuan's words, Angel asked back, "What about you? Why are you so desperate?" Qinchuan pursed his lips and replied, "The grudge between Zerg and I can't be explained in a few words. I can tell you very responsibly that I will always be on the opposite side of Zerg. If I have the chance, I even want to kill Zerg." In the land of exile, too many of Qinchuan's friends died in the hands of Zerg. The human race had been bullied by Zerg for thousands of years. The hatred between him and Zerg had long reached an irreconcilable level. It was either you die or I live. Hearing Qinchuan's answer, a subtle look appeared on Angel's face, and she replied, "Actually, I'm not risking my life for anyone. I just don't want the sane galaxy to be destroyed in the hands of anyone. This is the world that he once protected with his life. Before I die, I won't give up on saving the sane galaxy." What a touching love story. Qinchuan smiled, and suddenly took a step forward. "Let's go. The eggs have been cleaned up. We can move around for a while." Angel followed behind Qinchuan. The two walked down the corridor for a long time and finally reached the end. They saw dozens of locked rooms. Looking at these rooms, Qinchuan frowned slightly and said to Angel, "These doors should be locked. If we break them open by force, Zerg will definitely be alerted." Angel nodded and said to Qinchuan, "We have to find a way to break the lock and get in without being noticed. I know a friend who's an expert at picking lock. No lock can stop him. He's in Sane City now. If I ask him to come here, it'll take at least 10 minutes. Hurry up. We can't afford to wait." Qinchuan looked at Angel, Although Zerg might not be patrolling, it's better to be careful. While Angel was contacting the expert, Qin looked around to see if he could find anything. He walked to the door and communicated with the little armored dragon in his mind. Little armored dragon, can you sense if there's Zerg in this room? Or if there's a bigger Zerg egg? In response to Qin question, the little armored dragon shook its head and spread its hands. Its face was full of helplessness. Seeing this, Qin understood what the little armored dragon meant. It seemed that this room was not as simple as a lock. Could also isolate the senses of the outside world. With the little armored dragon's ability, if it could not sense if there were Zerg eggs or Zerg in the room, then they should not even think about it. Angel's friend came faster than expected and arrived in less than 8 minutes. What Qin did not expect was that Angel's friend was actually a beautiful woman with a hot body. Hey Angel, when did you start doing such sneaky things? The beautiful woman with blonde wavy hair glanced at Qin and said to Angel, could it be that you've been led astray by this guy? The Grand Duke of Rose City and the famous Level 5 formation Master Qin broke into a room to steal. If this were to spread out, I'm afraid a lot of people's jaws would drop. Hearing this, Angel shook her head and responded, Jean Li, I don't have time to chat and bicker with you now. See if this door can be opened. Seeing the serious expression on Angel's face, the beautiful woman called Jean Li stopped talking nonsense. She walked to the door and took a look. Then she frowned and said to Angel, this door lock actually uses the 9 techniques of door sealing. Hearing this, Angel asked curiously, what are the 9 techniques of door sealing? The 9 arts of sealing the door is a sealing technique. It can also be said to be a sealing technique. This technique has long been lost. I didn't expect to see this technique on such an ordinary door. Jean Li looked at Angel and asked, what's behind this door? I don't know, but it's not something good. Angel looked at Jean Li and asked, can you open this door? Jean Li smiled and replied, give me 5 minutes. Anders Group, top floor. The black-robed man sat on the sofa with a glass of scarlet wine in his hand. He gently swirled it and seemed to be in a good mood. Tap, tap, tap. A tall figure slowly walked over and knelt respectfully in front of the black-robed man. He whispered, Envoy, someone has invaded the group and is trying to open the door. Hearing the subordinate's report, the black-robed man chuckled and said indifferently, their actions are very fast. It's a little beyond my expectations. Since they want to see what's behind the door so much, let them have a good look. I hope they'll like the gift we've prepared for them. Few done. Jean Li looked at her masterpiece with satisfaction and a happy smile appeared on her face. She always liked to challenge this kind of difficult lock. This trip was not in vain. Hearing Jean Li's words, Angel stepped forward and wanted to open the door. However, Qin reached out and stopped Angel at this time. Don't open the door. Angel was slightly taken aback when she heard this. She raised her head and looked at Qin. When she saw the grave expression on Qin's face, her expression also turned solemn. She asked, what did you discover? Qin said in a deep voice, I think you definitely don't want to see what's behind this door. The moment the door was opened, the little armored dragon clearly sensed a powerful and evil aura coming from behind the door. If it was opened now, the consequences would be unimaginable. Chapter 9:14. Dragon God. Similar exclamations erupted from the top floor of the Anders Corporation. The black-robed man stared at the Azure Thunder Dragon on the surveillance screen and could not help but be shocked. How could a dragon god appear in the same galaxy? How is this possible? Even though he had seen it with his own eyes, the black-robed man still could not believe it. He could not accept this fact. As far as he knew, creatures like Dragon God had been extinct in the universe for hundreds of thousands of years. Even in the land of exile, the black-robed man seemed to have thought of something. He exclaimed, Could it be that this dragon god came from the land of exile? How did he get here? The black-robed man had too many questions and had too many unanswered questions. He had to get to the bottom of this. Qin Chuan did not want to reveal his dragon form unless he had no other choice. He knew that once he revealed his dragon form, it would definitely attract some unnecessary trouble. However, in the face of a fatal crisis, he could not care less. His life was the most important thing. Since he had revealed his dragon form, Qin Chuan had no more scruples. He immediately unleashed his full strength and killed dozens of monsters in an instant. However, the largest monster was still very difficult to deal with. It was difficult for him to deal with it alone. "Angel, come and help me!" Qin Chuan roared at Angel. When she heard Qin Chuan's call, Angel was stunned for a moment. Then, she quickly regained her senses and rushed to Qin Chuan's side. She looked at the huge dragon body and her eyes were still filled with shock. She never thought that she would be able to see an extinct creature appear in the world again. "How can I help you?" Angel looked at Qin Chuan and then at the huge monster. She did not know what to do. Qin Chuan took a deep breath and said to Angel, "Help me block this thing for a minute." When she heard Qin Chuan's words, Angel knew that Qin Chuan was going to use his ultimate move. She did not hesitate to say to Qin Chuan, "Okay, I will buy you enough time. There's no need to fight for time. You guys no longer have a chance." At this moment, the figure of the black-robed man suddenly appeared in front of Qin Chuan and Angel. His body emitted an extremely dangerous aura, causing Qin Chuan and Angel's expressions to instantly become extremely unsightly. It's really unexpected. After so many years, the divine dragon that should have existed forever in the historical records has once again appeared in the world. It's really too surprising. To be honest, I'm a little shocked. The black-robed man looked at Qin Chuan as if he was admiring a work of art. His eyes were full of fascination. He said in a low voice, "I will try my best to preserve your body and make you into a specimen for display. You will definitely become the most beautiful treasure in my collection. You're the mastermind behind this. What do you want to do?" Angel shouted angrily at the black-robed man. She wanted to know why the black-robed man was targeting the sane galaxy. Faced with Angel's question, the black-robed man chuckled and replied, "Isn't what I want to do obvious enough? I want to destroy the sane galaxy and all of you humanoids." As the black-robed man laughed maniacally, the entire skyscraper suddenly shook violently. Countless cracks appeared on the walls of the building. As the walls peeled off, countless insect eggs appeared in front of Qin Chuan and Angel. They could even clearly hear the strong heartbeats coming from the eggs. Seeing this scene, Qin Chuan and Angel could not help but feel their scalps tingle. They did not expect so many insect eggs to be hidden in the walls of the skyscraper. "Ha! Do you see my babies? When my babies come out of the eggshells, they will devour the entire sane city, and then the entire sane galaxy." The black-robed man looked at the insect eggs around him with fanatical eyes. "This is the result of my hundreds of years of operation in the sane galaxy. Isn't it wonderful?" "You're crazy." Angel looked at the black-robed man in shock. "What enmity do you have with the sane galaxy for you to do such a crazy thing? It's not you who are wrong, it's Odyssey. He shouldn't have been greedy for something that didn't belong to him. So you are all suffering in Odyssey's place." The black-robed man revealed an extremely shocking piece of information. It turned out that the reason they attacked the sane galaxy was because they coveted something in Odyssey the Great's hands. But what was it that the black-robed man had been operating in the sane galaxy for hundreds of years? Whoosh! Just as Qin Chuan and Angel were shocked by this news, the black-robed man suddenly launched an attack on Qin Chuan. He appeared in front of Qin Chuan like a flash of lightning, his palm aimed at Qin Chuan. A terrifying force surged out, instantly rendering Qin Chuan completely defenseless. Seeing this, Angel turned around and tried to save Qin Chuan. However, the black-robed man only snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, Angel was repelled. The next moment, the monster came in and blocked Angel's path. Hee, if I don't strike first, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to keep your body intact. The black-robed man looked at Qinchuan and laughed. Are you ready to accept the judgment of death? As the black-robed man's voice fell, Qinchuan felt his body begin to stiffen little by little, as if he had been filled with lead. He had experienced this feeling before. This was the effect of the space law's confinement. The power of law that Jet had mastered was on a completely different level from the power of law that the black-robed man in front of him had mastered. Don't struggle. No one has ever been able to break free from the confinement of the space law. The black-robed man smiled confidently. To be able to die under the strongest law, you can die with no regrets. As the black-robed man's voice fell, Qinchuan had completely lost his perception of his body, and even his consciousness was fading rapidly. At this critical moment, Qinchuan's abdomen suddenly lit up with a golden light. Buzz! The bright golden light instantly penetrated the black-robed man's body, and at the same time, interrupted the black-robed man's control over Qinchuan, allowing Qinchuan to regain his freedom. How is this possible? The black-robed man took 2 steps back and looked at Qinchuan in shock. He didn't know what had attacked him just now. Under the confinement of the space law, how could Qinchuan still have the power to resist? It was really thrilling. Qinchuan took a deep look at the black-robed man, and then breathed a sigh of relief. He originally thought that he was hopeless, but the Dragon Ball hidden in his abdomen suddenly released the first transformation of the Dragon Ball's 9 transformations on its own, helping him to solve the predicament in front of him. Chapter 9:15. What is that? The black-robed man stared at Qinchuan in disbelief. Qinchuan was only at the divine transformation stage. Even if he was from the ancient dragon clan, he shouldn't have been able to break through the confinement of his spatial laws. This was simply unbelievable. Qinchuan stared deeply into the black-robed man's eyes. He had no intention of replying. With a roar, he released the light from the dragon orb again, intending to kill the black-robed man in one fell swoop. However, the black-robed man had already suffered a great loss under the light. This time, he would not let Qinchuan have his way. Whoosh! The figure of the black-robed man suddenly disappeared from Qinchuan's sight. In the next moment, the countless insect eggs that were piled up on the wall suddenly began to tremble violently, and actually began to shatter. The faint cries of insects became louder and louder and noisier. Oh no, this guy has directly hatched all these eggs. Qinchuan's expression turned extremely ugly when he realized what the black-robed man had done. He used the light to kill the monster that was fighting with Angel, then transformed into his human form and quickly rushed to Angel's side. The black-robed man has hatched all the eggs. This place will soon become an insect nest. It's too late for us to stop this from happening. We have to leave immediately. Angel's expression became extremely frightened when she heard Qinchuan's words. She exclaimed, "If we retreat now, these insects will definitely invade Sai-Na City once they hatch. What will happen to the ordinary people?" Angel's expression became extremely ugly when she thought of the entire Sai-Na City becoming a paradise for these insects. Qinchuan said in a low voice, "We don't have time to think about this now. It's useless even if we continue to stay here. Do you have a way to destroy this insect nest in an instant?" If there was a way to destroy this insect nest, Qinchuan would of course be willing to directly wipe out these disgusting insect eggs. However, even with the power of the light, it was impossible to destroy this insect nest in a short period of time. At this moment the eggs were about to hatch. If they did not leave now, they would become food for these insects. Angel also knew that Qinchuan was right, but she was unwilling to leave just like that. "I've already broken the seal." At this moment, Jean Li's shout came from not far away. She quickly walked over and asked Qinchuan and Angel to leave. Go! Angel clenched her teeth and said firmly, I can't just leave like this. No matter what the final result was, she had to give it her all. Even if she lost, she would have no regrets. When Qinchuan saw that Angel was unwilling to leave, he could not help but feel a headache coming on. He was most afraid of people like her who were stubborn at critical moments. If you don't leave, then we won't leave either. Let everyone die here. When the time comes, no one will be able to inform the people outside to evacuate. More people will die. Qinchuan said in a deep voice, Do as you see fit. Hearing Qinchuan's words, Angel's face could not help but show a touch of embarrassment. Seeing this, Jinli quickly stepped forward and pulled Angel back. She said in an extremely anxious tone, My dear, don't be so stubborn at such a critical moment. Kacha, kacha. The sound of insect eggs cracking rang out one after another. Insects covered in mucus crawled out of the broken eggs one after another. Seeing this scene, Angel finally stopped hesitating and said to Qinchuan and Jinli, Let's go. There's no need to go. We can't go. Qinchuan looked ahead with an extremely gloomy expression. With the hatching of the insect eggs, countless mucus poured out, completely blocking the passage opened by Jinli. If they could not kill all these insects, they might not be able to get out. Seeing that the only escape route was blocked, Angel's face could not help but show a touch of regret. She said to Qinchuan, I'm sorry, I've implicated you. Let's not talk about this nonsense now. Jinli sighed. Let's think about what to do now. Get out of the way. Qinchuan asked Angel and Jinli to go behind him. He gritted his teeth and once again released Skylight from the Dragon Ball, directly attacking the escape route in front of them. The powerful force penetrated the mucus in an instant, but soon new mucus piled up, making Qinchuan's previous attack useless. This mucus is not simple. Qinchuan frowned fiercely. With the power of Skylight, it shouldn't have caused such minor damage. Buzz buzz buzz. Just as Qinchuan was speaking, the newly hatched insects had already stretched their bodies, their dark red compound eyes looking at Qinchuan and the others, ready to attack. When the first insect took the lead to charge, all the other insects rushed toward Qinchuan and the others, showing their sharp claws and teeth. Open! Angel shouted when she saw this. She raised her hand and waved. Turbulent spiritual energy poured out from her palm, turning into a light curtain that shielded the three of them. At the same time, it evolved into sharp blades that pierced toward the swarm of insects. However, to everyone's surprise, these blades of spiritual energy could not cause any damage to the swarm of insects. These insects' carapaces are so hard, Angel exclaimed. Even with the strength of her spiritual energy, she could not cause any damage to these insects. This was too exaggerated. Qinchuan and Jinli did not expect that with Angel's strength, she could not harm these insects at all. Once these insects left this place, wouldn't it mean that they could run rampant in Sinai City, and no one could kill them? It's not these insects that are powerful, it's the mucus on their bodies that is powerful. Jinli looked at the mucus on the insects and frowned. It's the mucus that counteracted Angel's attack. Hearing Jinli's words, Angel was slightly stunned, then said, Is there any way to get rid of the mucus on these insects? Qinchuan did not respond to Angel. Instead, he began to inscribe the vast ocean glyph formation. He planned to use the power of the vast ocean glyph formation to clean the mucus on these insects. When Qinchuan was about to release the vast ocean glyph formation, the ground under their feet suddenly shook violently, as if some huge monster was about to break free. Hiss hiss hiss. When an extremely sharp cry rang out from underground, the expressions of Qinchuan and the others became extremely unsightly at the same time. This was because they had sensed that there was an insect hidden beneath their feet at practically the same time. Moreover, it was an extremely powerful insect king. Bang! A thick insect leg with a diameter of 3 meters burst out of the ground, causing the ground to crack. The entire skyscraper began to shake, and as the gigantic insect king's figure continued to appear, the skyscraper finally could not hold on any longer and collapsed with a loud bang. Buzz! The buzzing of the swarm of insects almost instantly resounded throughout Sai-Na City. Chapter 9:16. In the distant sky, the black-robed man stood in the air, looking at the collapsing skyscraper with a grim expression. Since you've awakened, let's start the slaughter. Turn this city into a dead city. Whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared beside the black-robed man. He looked at the swarm of insects that had rushed out of the collapsed building, his face alternating between a smug and ferocious expression. His behavior was very strange. The black-robed man did not find the change in the man's expression strange. He chuckled and said faintly, "Take a good look, Odyssey. Because of your greed, Sai-Na City will become a ghost town. If you don't want the humanoid race to become a slave race, you'd better tell me where that thing is." Hearing the black-robed man's words, Odyssey let out a low growl. "I won't let you get away with it." Hearing Odyssey's difficult answer, the black-robed man snorted coldly and ordered, "Sang-Na, keep him awake. Let him watch Sane City become a dead city little by little. Let him listen to the painful and desperate cries of the people. Let him know how foolish his decision was." "I got it." Sang-Na, who had taken control of Odyssey's body, responded to the black-robed man. He would stand there until Odyssey completely collapsed. When the skyscraper collapsed, the nearby residents of Sane City subconsciously looked at the collapsed building. When they saw countless 1-meter-tall insects flying out of the collapsed building, everyone was shocked. "What's that? Why are there so many insects in Sane City? No, these insects are coming for us." All of a sudden, the surrounding residents fell into extreme panic due to the appearance of the insects and fled in all directions. The cultivators ignored Sai-Na City's ban on flying and directly flew into the air to escape. However, they did not expect that flying in the air would make them even more obvious targets, and they became the main targets of the insect swarm. Puff! An insect flapped its wings and darted forward. Its sharp legs easily pierced through the chest of a gold core cultivator, digging out his heart and stuffing it into its mouth. Then, it chewed and swallowed the heart into its mouth. When they saw this scene, the surrounding people revealed a wisp of extreme terror on their faces, and they turned around and fled madly into the distance. A huge wave of panic gradually spread through Sane City. Roar! A loud roar sounded from the competition venue of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange. All the spectators were cheering for the previous exciting battle. I thought the highlight of the day would be the battle between Qinchuan and Wang Qi. I didn't expect these two unknown contestants to perform so well in the last battle. Zhuosisi looked at the cheering crowd and lamented, "I think the contestants this year are a little too strong." The quality of this year's contestants is indeed much better than last year's. Sophie nodded lightly and said to Zhuosisi, "But I feel that based on the performance of these contestants in the preliminary round, there are probably not many who can fight with Qinchuan. His performance today really made everyone feel suffocated. It was really too terrifying." Zhuosisi nodded in agreement and sighed. It's extremely rare to see someone of his age who can achieve so much, at least in our galaxy. Perhaps there are only a few in places like star clusters where geniuses are as common as cloud. Sophie chuckled and said, "Although I've never left the same galaxy and don't know what the geniuses in the larger nebulas or star clusters are like, I think Qinchuan shouldn't be much worse than them." The two of them were chatting when they suddenly heard a commotion outside. Moreover, it seemed to be getting more and more intense. "Strange, why is it so noisy outside the square? Don't the guards care?" Zhuosisi was puzzled. What were the people outside arguing about? Just as the two of them were puzzled, a group of people suddenly poured into the square. Every one of them had a look of horror on their faces, as if they had encountered something extremely terrifying. Every one of them had a ferocious look on their faces, and they were wailing loudly. It was as if they had encountered some extreme danger. Sophie looked at the crowd that had rushed into the square like refugees. Just as she was about to say something, she heard a buzzing sound. A huge bug flew in from outside. What a huge bug! Zwassisi was a little surprised. Were these people driven in by this bug? There's more than one. Sophie looked at the entrance of the square very seriously. However, in an instant 2 more bugs flew in. It seemed that there were more behind them. Buzz. When dozens of insects flew into the square at the same time, everyone's expression changed slightly, and when hundreds of insects rushed in from behind, everyone's faces revealed a touch of horror. These bugs are very strong. Zwassisi's face was covered in shock as she gazed at the bugs. She couldn't figure out why so many bugs had appeared in Sinai City. Bugs. So many bugs. There are bugs everywhere outside. So many people have died. The people that had fled in earlier couldn't help but reveal a wisp of despair when they saw the bugs had chased them here, and they started howling madly. Swoosh! A bug suddenly appeared before the person that was howling with grief, and then it directly pierced his throat with its sharp leg, causing his mad howls to be choked back in his throat. A large amount of blood flowed down the bug's leg, and then the bug suddenly stretched out its thin and long tongue and licked it lightly. It seemed to be enjoying it very much. Bang! A wave of exclamations instantly resounded when they saw the bug kill a person with ease. At the same time, a few dozen figures charged towards the bugs from all directions. They were the guards of the organizer of the Talisman Formation Master Exchange and the Imperial City Guards of Sinai City. All of them were nascent soul cultivators. Swoosh! Poochie! However, to everyone's shock, these Imperial City Guards hadn't even approached the bugs when their heads were separated from their bodies. Hiss! 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 After killing the Imperial City Guards, the bugs greedily enjoyed the delicious meat, and they were completely unaware of how great of a shock their actions had brought to everyone. Run! Someone in the spectator area shouted, and everyone seemed as if they'd awoken from a dream as they ran outside with terrified expressions. However, they didn't know that the situation outside wasn't any better than the situation in the square, and it might even be worse. However, at this moment, everyone who'd fallen into extreme panic couldn't care less. Only by escaping from the scene of the murder would their nervous and uneasy hearts be relieved. Chapter 9:17. The huge Sinai city had more than 10 billion residents and countless cultivators. However, in the face of the Zerg's rampage, the people could do nothing but flee in panic. In the chaotic crowd, Zwassisi looked around nervously, trying to find Chinchuan's figure. Unfortunately, she only saw unfamiliar faces fleeing in panic. She did not see the person who could give her a sense of security and ease of mind. Chinchuan, where are you? Zwassisi murmured in a low voice. She was being pushed forward by the crowd. At this time, she and Sophie had been separated by the crowd and had completely lost their minds. Buzz! With a buzzing sound, hundreds of flying Zergs descended from the sky and rushed into the crowd, wantonly harvesting fresh lives, not even sparing the souls. In the sky, Sang Na, who was controlling Odyssey's body, looked at the chaotic scene below him. He could not help but reveal a sinister smile on his face. However, this smile soon turned into grief. This was Odyssey forcibly seizing control of the body. He wanted to break free from Sang Na's control. Give up. You have no chance. Sang Na opened his mouth and said to Odyssey, as long as you agree to hand over that thing, we will immediately return your freedom to you. At the same time, we will help you eliminate the Zergs and establish a glorious and great image for you in the eyes of your people. Isn't this the best choice for you? You Don't even think about it. Sang Na released a little of the restriction, and Odyssey immediately roared angrily at Sang Na. He would never surrender to Sang Na and would never hand over that thing. He knew very well that once he lost that thing, he would completely lose his value. At that time, not only would the residents of Sai Na City die, but he would also die. You are really stubborn. Sang Na coldly snorted. The expression on his face was extremely gloomy. He had gradually lost all his patience with Odysseus. If it wasn't for the High Envoy's order to get that thing from Odysseus' mouth, he would have already obliterated Odysseus. Since you like to watch your people die one by one, I will let you watch it to your heart's content. Sang Na bellowed and issued an order to the swarm to speed up the harvest of the lives of the residents of Sai Na City. In just a few moments, blood dyed the ground of Sai Na City red, turning it into a blood-red city. Quick! Move faster! As the first prince of the royal family, Ao Feng began to organize his men to fight back as soon as he heard the news of the insect swarm wreaking havoc in Sai Na City. Unfortunately, most of the men he gathered were just ordinary soldiers. The strongest among them was only at the nascent soul stage. There was no way they could effectively kill the insect swarm. They were just sending themselves to their deaths. Facing such a one-sided situation, Otto really wanted to gather the elite troops of the royal family to counterattack and protect the citizens of Sane City. However, to mobilize the elite troops required Odyssey the Great's written order. Without the written order, the elite troops would only stay where they were and would not listen to anyone's orders, even if Otto was the future ruler of the Crown Prince. General Zhao Deng, we have to fight back. Ao Feng stared fixedly at the middle-aged man in black armor standing in front of him. His expression was extremely anxious. He had to convince Zhao Deng to mobilize the troop. If the Zergs continued to wreak havoc in Sai Na City, it wouldn't be long before Sai Na City became a ghost town. First Prince, I know you're right. However, without the Great's order, the Black Jade Army can't act on their own. Zhao Deng looked at Otto and pursed his lips. If the First Prince wants to mobilize the Black Jade Army to fight back against the insect swarm, go and get the Great's written order. Hearing Zhao Deng's answer, Otto couldn't help but shout angrily, "Don't you know what it means to be flexible? If you continue to delay, can you bear the responsibility?" First Prince, whether I can bear the responsibility or not, I will bear it. Zhao Deng looked at Otto. However, rules are rules. First Prince, if the Black Jade Army follows your orders without the Great's written order, how do you think the Great will feel? I don't want to think about these schemes now. I just want to destroy the insect swarm. Otto's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Zhao Deng, I order you to lead the Black Jade Army to attack the insect swarm immediately and protect the citizens of Sai Na City. If you dare to disobey my order, I will kill you right now. Zhao Deng was silent for a moment before he helplessly sighed. He said to Otto, First Prince, you're giving the Second Prince a chance. I can't care about that anymore. Otto roared. Black Jade Army, attack. Target the insect swarm. In an environment where no one was a match for them, the insect swarm could do whatever they wanted in Sai Na City. Just when the insect swarm thought that they could continue like this and turn the entire Sai Na City into a living hell, they finally met a powerful opponent. The Black Jade Army. As the most powerful army in the entire Sai Na City, and even the entire Sai Na star system, the Black Jade Army had less than 3,000 people. However, all 3,000 of them were soul formation cultivators. They were the best of the best and the only army that could save Sai Na City in Otto's eyes. The Black Jade Army's performance didn't disappoint Otto's trust. With just one clash, they caused casualties to the insect swarm. In the blink of an eye, they killed nearly 100 insect swarm. When the fleeing crowd saw the Black Jade Army attack, their despairing faces finally revealed a trace of joy. They believed that under the attack of the famous Black Jade Army, the insect swarm would soon be annihilated and Sai-Na City would be restored to its former glory. Just as this thought appeared in everyone's minds, an earth-shattering roar suddenly came from afar. Then, a sharp shriek resounded throughout Sai-Na City. A huge, dark green beetle burst out of the ground and appeared in everyone's sight. When Otto saw this beetle that was as big as 10 battleships, the smile on his face froze. He couldn't help but reveal a trace of fear in his eyes. How could there be such a huge thing hiding underground? No one could answer Ao Feng's question because they were all intimidated by the aura of this beetle. This was definitely not an existence that a spirit-severing cultivator could resist. Even an early Dongshu cultivator would be as weak as a piece of white paper in front of this beetle. Black Jade Army, attack! While everyone was still in a daze, Zhao Deng roared and led his army to attack the insect swarm. Chapter 9:18. Zhao Deng's figure suddenly appeared beside Ao Feng. He looked at the huge figure in the distance with a grave expression and said to Ao Feng in an extremely serious tone, "First Prince, this must be the insect king of the swarm. Even if the Black Jade Army goes all out, they may not be able to stop it. You must evacuate the citizens of Sai-Na City and seek refuge in another city before the Black Jade Army is completely annihilated." Ao Feng's face revealed a trace of horror at Zhao Deng's words. He cried out involuntarily, "How can this be? How can the Black Jade Army not be a match for it?" The Insect King's aura was indeed powerful to the point of despair. However, the Black Jade Army had a total of 3,000 spirit-severing cultivators. Furthermore, they had a combination attack. How could 3,000 spirit-severing cultivators not be a match for the Insect King? In response to Ao Feng's question, Zhao Deng sighed and said, "First Prince, if the Black Jade Army were to face the Insect King alone, we might still have a chance of winning. However, don't forget that there are tens of thousands of flying insects around us. The Black Jade Army can't fight against the Insect King and the Swarm at the same time. Facing the joint attack of the Insect King and the Swarm, we will definitely lose." As the commander of the Black Jade Army, Zhao Deng was the one who understood the Black Jade Army's combat strength the best. He believed that the Black Jade Army could win regardless of whether they were to face the Insect King or the Swarm at the same time. However, if they were to face the Insect King and the Swarm at the same time, the Black Jade Army wouldn't be able to hold on for long. If Sai-Na City didn't want to be annihilated, then Ao Feng had to evacuate as many people as possible before the Black Jade Army lost their ability to resist. Where is the Emperor? Where is the Emperor? Ao Feng looked at Zhao Deng with a face full of despair. Why didn't Emperor Odyssey, who was their spiritual pillar, appear when Sai-Na City was facing annihilation? Zhao Deng couldn't help but reveal a subtle expression when he heard Ao Feng's question. He said in a deep voice, "I don't know where the Emperor is either. However, I believe that the Emperor will not abandon us. He will definitely rescue us." At this point, Zhao Deng patted Ao Feng's shoulder and said, "Crown Prince, I can't continue talking with you. I have to go to the front lines and command the Black Jade Army. I'll leave the rest to you." After saying this, Zhao Deng rushed forward in a flash. "General Zhao Deng." Ao Feng looked at Zhao Deng's departing figure with a complicated expression on his face. He clenched his teeth and said in a deep voice, "I won't disappoint you all. The Insect King's armies attack. Na City, the Black Jade Army's attack, the Black Jade Army's swarm of the Black Jade Army's army attack. 100 Soul Formation stage cultivators were enough to destroy any city in the Sai-Na star system, but they were as fragile as a piece of paper in front of the Insect King. Attack Dengs of the Army's army. Under Zhao Deng's organization, the Black Jade Army quickly changed their formation from a charging formation to a defensive formation. With the insect king as the center, they formed a huge circular formation. Everyone gathered their spiritual energy to form a rope that rushed toward the insect king. They wanted to bind the insect king to the spot. Buzz! In the distant sky, hundreds of battleships started to fire their super cannons. The insect king on the ground seemed to have sensed the danger. It raised its head and roared, summoning the swarm of insects. After receiving the insect king's summons, the flying insects that had been massacring the residents of Sane City immediately turned their heads and converged towards the insect king's location, launching an attack on the Black Jade Army and the fleet. The Black Jade Army was able to hold on, but the fleet was severely damaged. The swarm of insects destroyed the Black Jade Army. Oh no, the insect swarm is only trying to surround us. Their real target is the fleet. Zhao Deng saw that the fleet was completely covered by the swarm, and his face couldn't help but become extremely gloomy. He coldly said, "If the fleet can't successfully bombard the insect king, the situation will become very bad for us." After discovering the intention of the insect swarm, Zhao Deng wanted to send a team to support the fleet. However, when the team rushed out of the encirclement, they were immediately surrounded by the insect swarm. They could not get close to the fleet and had to retreat. Zhao Deng's expression became even more anxious when he saw this. If they could not break out of this situation now, they would have no chance at all once the Zergs destroyed the fleet and counterattacked. What should I do? Zhao Deng was anxious, but he was powerless against the encirclement of the insect swarm. Boom! There was a loud boom in the sky. A battleship finally could not hold on under the attack of the insect swarm. Its engine was completely destroyed and it fell to the ground. The fall of the first battleship was like a fuse. Then, a few more battleships fell to the ground. Seeing this, Zhao Deng could not help but feel hopeless. With the madness of the insect swarm, it would not take long for all the battleships to fall. By then, the Black Jade Army would be the next to fall. I hope the first prince can move faster. Zhao Deng took a deep breath and turned to look at the insect king. He said in a deep voice, "All troops listen to my order. Abandon defense and attack the insect king." No one in the Black Jade Army objected to Zhao Deng's order. They once again aimed at the insect king and launched a suicidal attack. In the sky, Sang Na watched the Black Jade Army attack the insect king and could not help but sigh. He said to Odysseus, "I really did not expect a coward like you to be able to train such an excellent army. They are not afraid of death. Tsk. Unfortunately, they died in vain." Hearing Sang Na's lamentation, Odysseus felt extremely sad and pained. As the supreme leader of the Black Jade Army, he had deep feelings for the Black Jade Army. Now that he saw the Black Jade Army dying in the hands of the Insect King one after another in order to protect Sai-Na City, he really wanted to die in place of those brave warriors. "Odysseus, do you really want to watch the Black Jade Army that you personally trained die like this?" Sang Na said coldly, "This is your last chance. Once the Black Jade Army dies, it will be too late for you to speak. The Sai-Na star system will become a fat piece of meat in the eyes of other star systems and will be eaten up. Your humanoid race will also become a slave race and will never be able to rise again." In the face of Sang Na's words, Odysseus's last bit of persistence finally collapsed. "Stop, I will speak." Chapter 9:19. When he heard Odysseus's desperate and helpless response, Sang Na could not help but laugh. He had been waiting for this day for too long. Now, he was finally going to get a good result. "Hurry up and tell us. The sooner you tell us, the sooner we can restore Sai-Na City to its former prosperity and stability. You can also continue to be Emperor Odysseus. This is a good thing for all of us." Sang Na laughed. "Hurry up and tell us." Sang Na couldn't wait to bring this good news to the High Commissioner and ask for a reward. Hearing Sang Na's words, Odyssey's heart was in agony. He knew very well that Sang Na was lying to deceive him. Once Odyssey confirmed the existence of that thing, Sang Na would not hesitate to devour his soul. But even if Odyssey knew all this, there was nothing he could do. He could not continue to watch the people of Sai Na City die, one after another under the invasion of the Zergs. That thing is, boom. Just as Odysseus was speaking, a violent roar suddenly sounded in Sai Na City. A thick pillar of lightning rose from the ground and went straight for the Zerg King's abdomen, turning it black. The huge force directly flipped the Zerg King to the ground, causing the earth to shake. Everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. No one knew why a pillar of lightning suddenly rose from the Zerg King's abdomen, and it seemed to be able to cause a lot of damage to the Zerg King. Just as everyone was shocked, the pillar of lightning disappeared, and 3 figures quickly rushed out. These 3 people were none other than Qin Chuan, Angel, and Jean Li, who were previously buried underground. It's Grand Duke Angel. Zhao Deng recognized Angel. When he saw Angel, he could not help but be slightly stunned. Could it be that the pillar of lightning was released by Grand Duke Angel? Zhao Deng. When Zhao Deng noticed Angel, Angel also noticed Zhao Deng. She quickly came to Zhao Deng's side and asked, "What's the situation now?" Zhao Deng immediately replied, "The Zergs are wreaking havoc in Sai Na City. The Zerg King has appeared. Under the eldest prince's orders, I led the Black Jade Army to resist. Now, our Sai Na City has suffered heavy losses. The death toll has exceeded 1,000,000. Angel's face suddenly turned ugly when she heard Zhao Deng's answer. She could not help but shout angrily, "Damn Zerg!" Zhao Deng was a little surprised when he heard Angel's angry shout. Could it be that the Zergs were created by the Sacred Ones? Sacred Ones? Zerg. Angel snorted. Other than those filthy insectoids, who else can produce so many insectoids? Zhao Deng was puzzled. Zhao Deng did not understand. But he did not understand why. However, Zhao Deng didn't have the time to think about these problems because the furious Bug King had stood up and let out an angry roar at everyone. The Insect King roared and opened its mouth to spit out dense dark green mucus like raindrop. It emitted a fishy smell and instantly turned the air into a faint green color. Seeing this, everyone quickly dodged. Those who could not dodge in time were corroded and melted by the mucus. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. Everyone was horrified when they saw how corrosive the mucus was. They quickly retreated. However, the Zergs had already surrounded them from behind. They did not want to let them retreat. Black Jade Army break through. Under Zhao Deng's command, the Black Jade Army quickly assembled into an arrow formation and charged towards the Zerg swarm. Although the Black Jade Army was no match for the Zerg King, it was not a problem for them to deal with the Zerg swarm. Under the Black Jade Army's charge, a gap quickly appeared in the Zerg swarm's blockade, giving everyone a chance to rush out. However, at this moment, the sky above everyone's heads suddenly darkened. When everyone subconsciously looked up at the sky, what they saw was not the sky, but the Zerg King's huge body. Whoosh! The Zerg King moved from top to bottom. It waved its sharp insect legs and swept through the Black Jade Army like a grim reaper's scythe. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of Black Jade Army soldiers were killed by this move. However, this was only the beginning. The Zerg King flapped its wings and created a gust of wind, forcing everyone to slow down. Then, it waved its insect legs and began to harvest the lives of the Black Jade Army soldiers. Faced with the Zerg King's shameless fighting style, the Black Jade Army could not break out of the Zerg King's blockade even if they used all their strength. As soul formation cultivators, this was the first time they felt so small and powerless. Although this Zerg King doesn't know any spells, its body is too strong. Even I have a hard time stabilizing my body from the gust of wind created by its wings, let alone the others. Angel looked at the Zerg King's huge body in the sky with a gloomy expression. If they couldn't think of a way to break out of the Zerg King's blockade, then none of them would be able to escape. They would all die under the Zerg King's insect legs. Angel couldn't help but look at Qinchuan. She hoped that Qinchuan could stand up and lead everyone to break out of the encirclement. However, when she saw Qinchuan's pale face, she couldn't say the words that were on the tip of her tongue. Earlier, when they were buried underground, in order to break through the seal of the mucus, Qinchuan had already done his best. If she were to throw this problem to Qinchuan now, she would be too irresponsible. I'm a Dongshu stage cultivator. Qinchuan is only a soul formation stage cultivator. How can I be so irresponsible and push everything to him? Angel clenched her teeth and said to Jinli, "Take care of Qinchuan." Jinli looked at Angel with surprise and asked, "What do you want to do?" Angel looked deeply at Jinli and said in a deep voice, "It's my duty to protect the Psi-Na star system." At this moment, although only a short minute had passed, more than 1,000 Black Jade Army soldiers had died under the Zerg King's insect legs. This number was still rising. Just when everyone was about to give up in despair, an extremely shocking aura appeared in the gust of wind. It was like a dazzling star rushing towards the Zerg King in the sky. "Burn my soul and kill my enemy." Angel stared at the Zerg King in the sky. The halo of spiritual energy around her fluctuated wildly. This time, she didn't need to be the one hiding in the back. She wanted to rush in front of everyone and protect everyone in the world. Chapter 920. Angel. Jinli watched as Angel charged at the Insect King without hesitation. She couldn't help but reveal a look of shock. She didn't think that Angel would burn her life force and even her soul in exchange for more power to fight the Insect King. "You'll die, Angel!" Jinli shouted, but Angel could no longer hear her. Even if she heard her, Angel would not turn around. She would do everything she could to defend the glory of the sane galaxy, even if it meant sacrificing her life, just like her husband. Boom! The wind dissipated wherever Angel went. She held a golden longsword and stabbed it at the Bug King's abdomen. The powerful sword aura pierced through the sky and stabbed the Bug King's abdomen. Roar! The Insect King couldn't help but roar as its abdomen was attacked. It turned to look at Angel, and its hundreds of compound eyes were filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. However, Angel wasn't afraid at all. She stabbed out with her sword again. Kill! Following Angel's furious roar, the sharp sword energy finally pierced through the Bug King's abdomen and penetrated deep into its body. Large amounts of filthy blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the sky a dark green color. Seeing that the Bug King was injured, Angel roared again and appeared in front of the Bug King in a flash. She raised her sword and stabbed at the Bug King's compound eyes. Slash! Angel poured all the spiritual energy in her body into the longsword in her hand. The surging power made the longsword unable to bear the burden and burst out with a buzzing sound. However, Angel could not care less. Even if she risked the destruction of her natal Tao artifact, she had to swing her sword and severely injure the Insect King. The sword light swept across the sky, turning the sky into a dazzling silver-white color. Huff, huff! Angel panted heavily as she stared straight ahead. She could not help but have a strange look flash through her eyes when she saw the deep slash on the Insect King's compound eyes. Is it dead? The Bug King's aura was already weak and dispirited. It was like an old man with one foot in the grave that could pass away at any time. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Angel and the Bug King. Their eyes were filled with nervousness and anticipation. The Bug King's life was related to the future of Sane City and even the Sane Galaxy. They had to be concerned. Angel heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the Zerg King was dead, the remaining Zergs wouldn't be a problem. As soon as this thought popped up in Angel's mind, The Zergs that were hovering in the vicinity suddenly charged at the Zerg king as though they had gone mad. 1. The swarm of insects spread their wings and flew towards the insect king. They covered the sky and wrapped around the insect king layer by layer, forming a huge sphere. Angel looked at the scene in front of her with a face full of shock. She had no idea what these insects were trying to do. No matter what you want to do, I will kill you today. Angel let out a low roar and once again gathered the spiritual energy in her body. However, at this moment, she felt a burst of dizziness and a strong sense of weakness gushed out from her body. This was the aftereffect of burning her life force and soul in exchange for power. Although it wasn't strong yet, at this critical moment, it was enough to ruin Angel's overall plan. Just as Angel was trying her best to adjust her condition, the sphere formed by the swarm of insects suddenly began to wriggle slowly. The wriggling speed became faster and faster, and the sphere gradually began to shrink. At the same time, the insect king's aura, which was so weak that it had almost disappeared, began to slowly grow. The Zergs are reviving the Bug King. At this moment, everyone realized this, and their expressions became extremely ugly. It wasn't easy for Angel to severely injure the Bug King and bring it to the brink of death. If the Zergs revived the Bug King, all of Angel's previous efforts and sacrifices would be in vain. What others could think of, Angel could also think of, but she was powerless in the face of all this. The weakness caused by burning her life force and soul deeply troubled her. Now, she didn't even have the strength to lift her sword. If she wanted to recover, it would take at least half a day. If she really waited until then, Sane City would have been destroyed. Now, if she wanted to turn the situation around, there was only one way to go, and that was to completely burn her life force and soul in exchange for great power at the cost of an irreversible sacrifice. Once she did that, no matter what the result of this battle was, she would definitely die. Angel couldn't help but think of the words that her husband, Duke Andro, had said to her that had a great impact on her. She looked at the Zergs in front of her, and a touch of determination flashed in her eyes. She whispered, "I may die, but my spirit lives on. Burn for me." Angel roared at the sky. She burned all of her life force and soul without caring about anything else. The surging power poured out like a flood from an open dam, forming an extremely terrifying vortex of spiritual energy around her. It gathered the spiritual energy within 1,000 miles and formed a huge silver sword in the air, slashing at the Zergs. The moment the silver sword fell, the swarm of insects felt the arrival of danger. They couldn't help but speed up the process of reviving the insect king. All the flying insects spontaneously bit off each other's necks, causing streams of dark green blood to flow out. The blood flowed through the gaps to the insect king, wildly replenishing the insect king's life force. Buzz! The mighty longsword swept across the sky and slashed directly at the sphere formed by the swarm of insects. In the blink of an eye, countless insects were turned into ashes. A terrifying force swept out in all directions, causing everyone to involuntarily fly backward. Rumble! The sword chi slashed open the sphere and continued to slash into the ground, leaving a bottomless sword mark that was hundreds of thousands of meters long on the ground. The entire planet shook violently. In the distance, everyone looked at the terrifying sword mark in front of them, and their faces involuntarily revealed a touch of shock. This was the full power of an almighty Dongshu stage attack, so powerful that it could leave an indelible mark on a planet. However, after slashing out with this sword, how long would Angel be able to live? Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but look at Angel in the distant sky. However, very quickly, everyone's eyes were attracted by the two halves of the Zergs. Streams of viscous dark green liquid flowed out from the two halves of the Zergs and gathered in the air, trying to pull the two halves together. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but gasp. Angel had burned all of her life force and soul, but she still couldn't kill the Bug King. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.